Yes, sir.
Time's 6:30. Call this meeting to order. Mr. Hodges, you want to lead us in invocation?
Sure. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you for today. Lord, thank you for this time to gather today and this evening and serve our community to the best of our abilities. Lord, please guide our decisions this evening. Lord, I thank you for all the civil servants, fire and police and first responders. And Lord, I thank you for our public officials, both local and statewide and national. I pray for their guidance and wisdom during these challenging times. Lord, again, please guide our decisions this evening, and thank you for allowing us to serve this community. In Jesus' name I pray.
Amen. All right, Mr. Dole, will lead us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Well, we have a packed house tonight. As we say in every meeting, the rules of decorum are in effect. We're fixing to open citizens' comments. What I will ask you is we have 4 items on here that are public hearing items. I've noticed a lot of the sheets for people to talk are associated with several of those items. What I will ask you is, for those of you that are here on those, if you could hold those comments until the public hearing rather than do them in citizens' comments. Is everybody okay with that? That put those requests in? With that being said, then the only person that really has one that's outside the scope of the public hearing ones would be Mr. Nichols. So, Mr. Nichols, if you want to get up during citizen comments on yours, citizens' comments are now open. Huh? Okay.
My comments are all about CWD. Do you want me to?
Make sure you announce your name and your address.
You want me to do it now?
Yes, sir.
I'm Gary Nickel at 612 Kentwood. I have comments about CWD. In general, I'm happy with the performance that they've done. Their performance has exceeded our previous carriers, and overall, I think they've done a good job. I especially appreciate the allowance for having an additional cubic yard outside the cart for branches and bulky items and things like that. That's very important. But I do have some complaints too, or some items that I would like to be addressed, and I wasn't able to get satisfaction on their phone line. The first one is that I object to the $10 fee for credit card payments. Virtually all of my bills are paid by credit card now, and it just annoys me to have to fill out a bank transfer statement or an order to do that. I'd like to know, second, why some customers are allowed to use personal carts alongside the CWD carts, and for what I assume is no additional charge. I'm paying for 2 gray carts, as well as the blue one, and if I didn't have to do that, I could save some money, but I'm not trying to scam the system. I just want to know why everybody's not held to the same standard. And the last item is about recycling. First of all, I'd like to know if it's paying for itself or even close to breaking even, because I've read multiple places that it's a losing proposition, and I would like to know why I'm required to have a recycle cart when I'm already paying for 2 regular carts, and I only fill the recycle cart once every 4 or 5 weeks. And then occasionally the trucks come through and dump all the carts into one truck anyway. So the trash is being mixed at times without regard to where it came from. And so people who are diligently sorting are just wasting their time. So if it's not necessary to separate the recycling, I'd like to be able to give them the blue cart back and just have 2 regular gray ones. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nickel. And there is a possibility, if you're going to be here for the majority of the thing, under item 7.2, I know there's a representative here. He may be able to address that when he talks about his normal review of the company's work for us. Okay. Thank you.
Adrian Baltham, 1518 Forenza Court. Okay. Okay. Okay, so I had Ms. Shelley, she ended up making a copy of the TCEQ environment report. Last year we had the issue with the boiling water, and there was an investigation that took place. And so I don't know if any of you actually requested an investigation report done. I did. And I'm requesting for the City Council to give direction to the new enforcement officer to review this document to make sure that all of the requirements of violations that were listed, and that it's being taken care of. Also, please note that in the document it references to the city engineer, and that the importance of why the city engineer needs to be involved when it comes to any of the water sources. So if anybody says like, oh, the city engineer is not involved, we have to have a city engineer involved in that. So, and also I will speak at the public hearing in a little bit in regard to the consent agenda. And I'm hoping, I don't know how many people are planning to speak, but there was an item on here on the consent agenda towards the end, the last 3 items. I believe that they are considered contentious, and I'm hoping that that City Council will request that the items not be listed in the consent agenda and be separate items for discussion and vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Major. All right. If there's, other than the public hearing items that a lot of people want to speak on, is there anyone else for any additional citizen comments outside of those items? If not, time is 6:37. Citizens' comments will be closed for this evening. We'll move on to the public hearing side of it. 5.1, conduct a public hearing to consider the adoption of an ordinance accepting and approving an amended and restated service and assessment plan and assessment roll for the Sonoma Public Improvement District, levying special assessments against certain property in improvement area number 3 of the district, approving a PID reimbursement agreement, and making certain findings and determinations related to the district. I'm going to open it up for the hearing on that, but before we actually have those that may be here to speak on that one, I'm going to ask the city's representative, followed by the developer, if they wish to say anything to comment. Lisa, who do we have?
Jason, do you have any remarks? Jason is our financial advisor from Hilltop Securities.
Mayor and Council, good evening. It's good to be with you. This is simply a requirement, since we do have the service and assessment plan, and so this does relate to agenda item number 6.3 and 6.4. And of course, this relates to what I was here talking about with Council at your last Council meeting. So we also have here Kirk McDaniel. He is with P3 Works. And so if there are specific questions as they relate to the service and assessment plan, he can certainly answer those as well.
Okay. Any questions? All right. Does the developer have any comments or anything they'd like to say? Okay. All right. It's now open. Oh. yes, ma'am. I'm sorry, didn't see you back there.
I'm short. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Corey Admire. I'm with Shoup Ventura PLLC, 9406 Biscayne Boulevard in Dallas, and I'm speaking on behalf of the landowner of 100% of the property within Improvement Area Number 3 to speak in favor of the levy of the assessment and issuance of the bonds. Thank you.
All right. Well, it's now open. It is 6:39. It's now open for the public hearing side of it. If we have any citizens that wish to address 5.1, which is the Sonoma Verde PID for the Area 3 of the district. Going once? Going twice? All right. Public hearing's closed on 5.1. It's still, well, it's now 6:40. So at 6:40, we'll open up the public hearing for 5.2. A public hearing to consider a request for annexation of 90.10 acres, more or less generally located at the southwest corner of Pullen Road and Sinks Road within the extraterritorial jurisdiction of the city. Mr. Coker, would you like to deliver your staff report on that before we open the hearing?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Mike Coker, city planner representing the city. We received an application and a request for annexation from Reggie Hickerson for the 90.1 acres of land that is the subject of this annexation hearing. The request complies with Chapter 43 of the Texas Local Government Code and is consistent with the guidance that we've received in the past, and the staff is recommending that you adopt the ordinance annexing the 90.1 acres. I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have about that.
Any questions for Mr. Coker?
Would it be okay to hold questions till after the citizen public hearing?
Yeah.
Okay. I'd prefer to do that.
Okay. Is the applicant here by chance? Yes, sir.
Mr. Hickerson has authorized Ryan to act on his behalf for both the annexation and then the subsequent public hearings that you're going to have.
Okay, thank you. Sir. If nobody has any objection, I'm going to take the time.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. As far as the annexation goes, we are here before you tonight to request a zoning of 164 acres generally located on the south side of Pullen Road at the intersection of Pullen and Sinks Road. As far as the annexation goes, we have nothing really as far as annexing goes. We do have a presentation for the additional agenda items later on down, but we just thank you for your consideration and we thank you for your time and support this evening.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, it is now 6:42. It's now open for citizens' comments or during this portion of the public hearing. Does anybody have any comments on 5.2? I think, Adrian, I think it was one you had listed on there. Did you have anything to say on that one? Do I what?
The map is included in the staff report that came to the council.
Thank you. I just want to make sure I heard correctly. Okay. Adrian Balcom, 1518 Forensic Court. Okay, so I listened to the planning and zoning meeting last night. I have some concerns, and my concern is that the way that this whole thing is going about, I think we have an understanding that there's supposed to be a comprehensive plan that's supposed to be worked on. And there's always this concern, well, you know, we want people's opinion because essentially you're representing us. And I can tell you as a former council member how tough it is to have that, to know what is it that people want. You know, you're supposed to be representing them. And one of the things that I'm proud of, and I will always stick to, is the surveys. We had 3 citizen surveys, and one of them is this one. And the questions that was always asked is, how do you feel about the 1.5? The question is just straightforward. Do you support reducing the minimum lot size from 1.5 acres to 1 acre? That big red portion in the pie chart right there, that is that they strongly oppose it. Strongly oppose it. And people that participated in the survey, we invited like 1,968 people, and we had 471 responses, okay? And I don't know how many people that you need to be able to remind you about why we moved to McLendon-Chisholm. And it's very important to keep that rural look and feel. And there was a couple of remarks that was being made that, well, what, I don't know the difference. What's the difference between 1.5 and 1 acre? There's a huge difference. And that's one thing that one of the reasons why I live in Sonoma Verde. And if y'all remember in lots of citizen comments, in the past, for many years, there's been a contentious thing about how Sonoma Verde came about. So I want to encourage you, even though you do not have citizen surveys right now at this point, please do the due diligence, review back on the previous citizen surveys if you need reference to, or take the time to actually ask the citizens, hey, do you support this? Because I think that it's going to be valuable on where you're going to be heading as far as like the comprehensive plan input. And again, you know how I feel about how the city engineer and city planner, how that came about. So this is exactly what happened last night, and how this is going about is exactly the reasonings why why we needed to have a qualified engineer and a qualified city planner to avoid these type of things. He's doing everything he can to get away from public input. And if we did not communicate with each other, you wouldn't have a full house tonight. So, hope that you take that into consideration. I hope that you don't go ahead and approve this consent agenda to go ahead and approve this. I hope that you do discuss it. I hope that you listen to our input, that what we're wanting, and which is to deny this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Adjourn. Anyone else on 5.2? Sir? If you'll just state your name and your address.
My name is Peter Barter. I live at 173 Savannah Hill Lane in the extraterritorial jurisdiction of McLendon-Chisholm. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council, for allowing me to address you this evening. I'm speaking in support of the recommendation by Planning and Zoning, which was to disallow without prejudice the matter on tonight's agenda dealing with the approximately 164 acres of land located near the intersection of Sinks and Pullen Road. My objection is not related to growth. Growth is inevitable, and when it aligns with the desires of the community, then growth is also good. My objection is to this specific plan, and how this plan does not align with the current comprehensive plan in several areas, nor does it align with the future land use map. In the public portion of last night's P&Z meeting, the central idea was what should be the city's long-term view on how the city should grow and what principles should guide in that development. Comprehensive plan says, clearly I might add, that the minimum lot size is 1.5 acres. This plan is asking for 1 acre. The future land use map shows that the portion of these 164 acres that are already within the city limits is shown as low-density residential. The future land use policy number 3 on page 5.2 says, low-density residential developments are required to provide a maximum of 1 residential unit in every 1.5 acres. The draft ordinance, though, that would have brought this in before the council, and if you do accept it, would actually change this low-density definition inside the plan from 1.5 to 1 acres, which would clearly impact the entire city. Certainly the notice that was given for this one issue wasn't noticing the entire city of McLendon-Chisholm of this change. The open space section in the comprehensive plan in page 7.1 policy E instructs property owners and developers to provide recreational facilities, parks, open spaces, and amenities to the communities that they develop, yet this plan has none. The community design section 8 of the comprehensive plan says residential subdivision design should include curly-lever streets rather than a grid pattern. I'm sure you'll agree this plan really resembles a spreadsheet with houses. They should include strategies to improve pedestrian and bicycle safety. Nothing in this plan indicates any of that was being addressed. Further, it was pointed out to me in the meeting after by a person who would have special knowledge that as presented, the street layout would make it very difficult for fire apparatus to navigate to all areas of the development in the event of an emergency. Let me summarize. A speaker last evening in the public hearing portion made what I think was a curious statement. They said that they defy anyone to show them the difference between 1.5 acres and 1 acre, that they lived on 1 acre and that it was just fine. The answer to the question from last night is the difference is 50%. A 1.5 acre lot is 50% larger than a 1 acre lot. The comprehensive plan is beginning the revision process soon. And one of the challenges for the community is to provide a much larger voice to this question of how big is big enough. I'm asking the council to support the recommendation of planning and zoning and disapprove the petitioner's request until it conforms to the 2015 comprehensive plan or the revised plan when it's adopted. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else on 5.2? Yes, ma'am.
I'm still nervous. Erica Hilton, 126 Savannah Hill Lane. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. I want to begin by saying that
That's right, take a deep breath.
I want to begin by saying that my family is in favor of growth. The prospect of better water service, high-speed internet, added families in our community to fellowship and grow with, these are all things that we look forward to. But as a mother, as a resident of this beautiful community, and as a taxpayer, I'm asking for the growth to happen in an order that makes sense for the existing and future residents. My request and the request of many of my friends and neighbors is quite simple. We ask for the appropriate steps to be taken to make sure growth doesn't negate the reason that most of us moved to this gorgeous area by changing the future vision of the landscape. For the lot sizes in this proposed development to not be smaller than 1.5 acres as to avoid setting a precedence in the area for future development, and to make the change in growth less painful for the existing residents around the proposed development and eventually for the community as a whole by strengthening the infrastructure before introducing 132 new families into the area. So my husband and I, we literally shopped for 8 years for our home, and our realtor earned every penny that she got. And we're at the corner of Savannah Hill Lane and Pullen Road. We have our dream home with an amazing community surrounding us, and they embrace us. And a school system that is simply amazing. I am so sorry. I'm very emotional about this. So just around the intersection of Pullen Road, Sinks Road, and Savannah Hill Lane, there are 16 children that are age 10 or younger. This does not take into consideration all the kids further down Savannah Hill Lane or on the other parts of Pullen Road. And their safety, as a mom, is my top concern. Currently, cars speed down Pullen. I believe the speed limit is 30 miles per hour, but they go well above that speed. Our kids are always outside playing, and sometimes they cross Pullen because 3 of their buddies live on the north side and the rest of the kids live on the south side of Pullen. And so now let's go ahead and let's add construction traffic, additional residential traffic of approximately 132 homes, so 264 cars potentially, cut through traffic when there's an accident or construction on 205 or 550. That's already happening right now. And I believe you have a formula for tragedy. I've contacted the Rockwall County Sheriff's Department along with other neighbors because we walk, we bike, we play outside, and they tell me snap pictures of the cars, snap pictures of their plates, and report them, and they will contact the vehicle owners and tell them we're watching you. But that's the only solution we've heard so far. So in addition to my current concerns about the safety of our children, we're also concerned about the congestion at Pullen Road and Highway 205. So during peak hours, and we heard the report last night that the road's rated for 10,000 trips. I don't know how many of y'all have been down Pullen Road. And that the congestion at 205 and Pullen, I don't remember what that, I didn't put that in my notes, so I'm gonna leave that alone. Anyway, it's a hot mess. Additional residential traffic. of approximately 132 homes cut through traffic. Now the congestion at Pullen Road and Highway 205 during peak hours, morning and evening, you can sit at that stop sign for 5 minutes or more just waiting to pull out safely on the roadway. And I've heard the joke that there has to be something tragic happen before TxDOT responds. And I understand 205 is under TxDOT jurisdiction. And so now let's add another 132 homes to that mess that's already there. So other concerns I would like to mention is, number one, our water pressure this past summer and previous summers, and the fact that we had a boil notice because the water pressure dropped enough to allow contaminants into our water supply. Number two, the substandard internet available to residents on this side of Highway 205. I know we're at the mercy of the provider, but internet has played a large role in our daily lives with the pandemic, remote learning, and intermittent quarantine requirements. And adding additional users to this existing system is going to further weaken this service. And I do also understand that with growth comes better service eventually. And I do repeat that I understand we're at the mercy of the service provider. Number three, the effects that overcrowding will have on our teachers and children in the school system. Pullen Elementary, and I also believe Kane Middle School, are at or above capacity. To further overcrowd our schools will diminish the quality of education and the learning environment for our students, teachers, and administrators. I've heard rumors about new schools that are in the planning phase, but I would ask for these schools to either be in place or either be well under construction before you start adding children to this community. Number four, the concern of our property values if homes of lesser quality and or value are built in this development. So I've seen the communities built by Altura right down here. I think this is Wellington Manor, and then Kensington Court, and they're beautiful. They build beautiful quality subdivisions, but I don't believe a subdivision with smaller lot sizes is the right choice for the city of McLendon-Chisholm. And number five, last but not least, I want to laugh about this so I won't cry. My 9-year-old daughter said, can we just ask them if they would just please build a park back there instead of all those houses? So I want to go on record that Reese Hilton wants a park. I thank you all so much for your time and attention and for allowing me to voice my family's concerns. And thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And trust me, we know the kids want parks. we do understand that. Anyone else for 5.2?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. My name is Ron Pinkerton. I'm on 484 Savannah Hill Lane. And just want to give a quick perspective of someone that's a Rockwall resident. I lived in near the shores and had a beautiful home there, 4,000 square foot home and a nice lot, but the homes were so close together. We lived there for a long time, probably 8 years. And my wife and I, then we decided we wanted more space. So we looked around and we finally found this neighborhood. And so we really love it. We like the way that the houses were spaced out, the open area. And so really, I'm not against growth either. I think that's a good thing. And we all want the city to grow and growth to come here. But when you look at that, it looks very different aesthetically to everything else that's in the neighborhood there. And it looks real similar to what I came from. So I would just suggest that the 1 acre lots are a problem, and also I think that eventually the footprint and the size of the homes would devalue our property. So that's our concerns, okay?
Yes,
Thank you
sir.
very much.
Thank you so much. Anyone else for 5.2? All right, if there's no one else. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
Good evening. My name is Vanessa Friedenberg. I live at 567 Savannah Hill Lane. And I'm here to say what my experience is and why I moved to this city. It's not different from anybody here, but I would like to express how deeply this has affected my family. When we looked for a place to live, we could have lived in many states and any city pretty much. We seeked high and low. And this is the best place we found, because it's unique. And the reason it's unique is because it's got 1.5 acres minimum, not counting all the other people who have farms and beautiful land. And this is the reason we moved here. And when the word came out that all these homes were going to be next to us, we thought about it, let's just pack and move because we can't deal with it. This is not what we moved here for. But where would we move? There's no place like this. That's why everybody wants a piece of it. As far as the people who desire to live in a 1 acre lot next to the Trader Joe's with the better internet and everything else, there's plenty of places like that. There's Plano, there's Frisco, there's many areas. But how about the folks like us who want to live just in the country, simple life? I moved here because I want my daughter to be able to walk down the street, to play with children. She will no longer be able to do that with 132 homes next to us on this little country road called Poulin, with many blind spots as it is. Every day when I drive on that road to take my daughter to school, I'm worried because there's kids over there in blind spots as it is today. One of my neighbors just told me last week there was a car crash, somebody just trying to get off of Poulin Road. It might have been fatal. I think my neighbor witnessed people who are probably on their last breath. She doesn't know if they made it. I myself have no option, but I have to take that Poulin Road and take left on 205 because my son goes to school at Lake Shore. There's no other way around. If there was, I would take it. Many, many times I had a hard time because I have slowed down to turn on Poulin. And people who are coming behind, they think that's unacceptable. And they beat their horns at us, and I got 2 small children. I even called the police officer before because I felt that my life was in danger because every time I tried to pull on Poulin Road, they feel that I'm slowing down traffic, but that's where I live. That's the situation right now. How are we going to handle with all these neighbors coming over? My life will be greatly impacted. My daughter, the one other reason that we chose this area, because as far as acreage goes, I could have lived in the boonies somewhere. However, it's important to have a good school for my daughter, and we have this in this area. During COVID, my daughter's in class with 27 children. Her teacher is above 50, at high risk. I applaud her for going over there and teaching those children. But we all see how much stress she's under with 27 kids. And just last week, my daughter said, "Mama, we have a new friend coming from California. We're going to pack all these." Her classroom's tiny. I understand there is planning as far as building a school. But by the time that school is built, my daughter's out of there. So it will impact my daughter. It might be better for the future generation, but I'm talking about my children now. Well, let's pack and move. My assets are tied to that property. My assets, it's not the same. I bought this beautiful home at the end of the cul-de-sac. No traffic, beautiful farmland, very private, beautiful. I walked every day around that property and I prayed and I thanked God that He blessed me with a piece of heaven. My piece of heaven is taken away. If I go to sell that, it's not worth a piece of heaven anymore. I know it's just money for you all, but it's not just my money. It's the money of my neighbors and the future of our families. And I sat here many times to see what this city is about. And I heard that McLendon-Chisholm is one of the fastest growing communities. And that scares me. It scares me because I don't think that as a little town, we are prepared for all these people that want to move here. I'm not opposed to growth, but I would like to hold to the promise that attracted me to the city to begin with, at least 1.5 acres. Because if we no longer have that, might as well move to Frisco. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else on 5.2? If not, time is 7:03. 5.2 is closed. Now, moving on to 5.3. Hold a public hearing to consider amending the future land use map of the comprehensive plan to change the land use designation from rural residential to a new classification to be known as low density residential for a 164.591 acre tract of land located generally at the southwest corner of Pullen Road and Sinks Road, and approximately 90.10 acres, more or less, are located within the McLendon-Chisholm ETJ, with the remainder located within the city limits. Before I open up the public hearing, Mr. Coker, would you like to deliver your staff report?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Mike Coker representing the city. The comprehensive plan has a number of issues, but one of the issues that we need to talk about is policy 12, which is a policy that says that if someone comes in to request a change in zoning that is inconsistent with the standards of the comprehensive plan, step one is to amend the comprehensive plan and the future land use map to show the land use that the petitioner is asking for. In this case, the applicant has requested ultimately, because the next public hearing is to talk about the zoning, but the request was for 1 acre zoning on property that the current future land use map shows for larger lot estate residential, 2.5 acre lots. And so what we're suggesting is changing the definition. What they've asked for is to change the definition of low density residential from 1.5 acres to 1 acre as the lot size. And if that were to be approved, then a second part of that consideration would be to amend the future land use map to show low density residential, which would be then 1 acre instead of 1.5 acres. But the standards in the comprehensive plan require by state law that if you provide zoning, and this gets to an issue about in the next public hearing, you know, a planned development district can set all kinds of standards, including a 1 acre standard were it to be adopted. But the state law says that zoning shall conform to the comprehensive plan. So in order for you to, and we don't have a 1 acre zoning district in the city. There were places like Sonoma Verde and a dozen others that were adopted prior to the adoption of the current comprehensive plan. And the current comprehensive plan set in place the standards for a minimum lot size of 1.5 acres. So if it were the council's consideration that reducing that size of lot from 1.5 acres to 1, you would need to change the text of the comprehensive plan to say instead of 1.5 acres, 1 acre. And there are a number of places within the comprehensive plan that would have an effect. And then secondly, to change the map, the future land use map that currently shows 1.5 acre lot sizes to 1 acre lot sizes, because you would have changed the definition of low density residential from a 1.5 acre to 1 acre. And that's the basic, what we're asking for today is for you to consider that change. One thing that is important as you're considering this, and then in the next public hearing, the county, Rockwall County, has recently amended their subdivision regulations, and historically it required 1.5 acres of land in our extraterritorial jurisdiction in order to qualify for an on-site sanitary sewer facility. Well, they changed it this last year from 1.5 acres to 1 acre. And so as you think about the 90.1 acres that's currently in our extraterritorial jurisdiction, a developer could apply for a plat that does that, and we wouldn't have anything. If the plat complied with our regulations, because we do plat reviews in subdivisions in our ETJ, then that would apply. They could do 90 lots or whatever, the 90 acres less the rights of way that they would have. But they could do it without us having any regulatory authority. And that's where a request to include the last public hearing they had was the annexation. It provides us the opportunity then to regulate through zoning and additional subdivision regulations, how the land use is affected. By addressing this comprehensive plan modification, you're actually confirming that should you annex the property, you're confirming that the regulations that we have in place, including the comprehensive plan, would apply. With that, I'll be glad to answer any questions that you have about this particular case. Otherwise, I'll be available for questions at the end of the public hearing.
Question? Well, I'm sure we do have some. Ms. Trudy?
So let me clarify.
Yes, ma'am.
What you're saying is they can do this at an acre lot and have a septic system, even if they don't come into the city,
Correct.
because of the county regulations.
That's correct.
But if we change ours from an acre and a half to an acre, they can come into the city.
They have requested to come into the city.
And therefore we would get the tax, or
They would become citizens. They
Yes.
would be within the city limits.
That's correct.
and so that would benefit us.
Yes, ma'am.
That way. Or they can choose to go the county route, not benefit, the city would not be able to benefit from them, but we would still have to serve them as far as fire and anything
And
else.
emergency services for sure.
And they can still go ahead and do the 1 acre.
Correct.
Yep. So the comprehensive plan, what year was that adopted? The 1.5 acres?
2016.
2016. And what was it before then?
Before then, we didn't have any standard that was adopted in the previous comprehensive plan, which was adopted in, 2007, and it was in effect from 2007 until the new comprehensive plan was adopted in 2016. We spent the previous year in 2015 going through the public participation process to get where the current comprehensive plan is today.
And why didn't do you know why the developer didn't come with a PD concept versus requesting the change in the comprehensive plan from the 1.5 to 1 acres?
Interestingly enough, your next public hearing is about the zoning, and the developer has requested a planned development district that would provide for 1 acre zoning with the setbacks and height requirements and standards that document, which is as a planned development district, which is a zoning district, would be considered. But that's the subject of your next public hearing.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Coker?
So, Mr. Coker, as far as kind of following up on Trudy's question, so if I'm understanding correctly, a portion of this planned development is within the city limits, and then a portion of it is in the ETJ, correct?
That's correct.
So, as you stated, the 1 acre county minimum applies, but how does that apply to the portion within the city limits?
Interestingly enough, Councilmember Hodges, the city allows an on-site sanitary sewer facility for a lot that is 1 acre. So that standard as far as on-site sanitary sewer facilities would be the same. The difference is that within the city right now, the zoning that's on that property, I think maybe ag, which would be 2.5 acres, but the future land use map calls it for low density residential, which would be 1.5 acres per lot. And so for that 40% of the land that is part of this consideration, that's in the city. And without any change to the comprehensive plan, you could have 1 acre lots in the county and 1.5 acre lots in the city.
Do we know what the difference is, like how much acreage on the county and on the city?
Yes, ma'am. We got 90.1 acres in the county and 74.5 acres in the city. And it's roughly a 60-40 split county to city. And in my mind, as your planner, and I'm making a recommendation to you, it made sense to have a subdivision that was consistent throughout, rather than having 90 acres that were 1 acre lots and then having 74 acres that were 1.5 acres. And one other thing, and this also goes to zoning, there are at least 3 areas within the proposed subdivision that are community facilities, open space. At any rate, but that has nothing to do with the comp plan. Any other questions on the comp plan or the future land use map?
Did you need to speak on this? All right, it is now 7:14.
Let me grab my computer.
Yes, sir.
Nobody else needs it, I don't think.
It's now 7:14. It's open for public hearing for 5.3. Whichever person wants to step up and talk on 5.3. Huh? Yeah, just remember, guys, I know it's on the sheets. I don't know if anybody's been paying attention, but you're only supposed to have 5 minutes to say what you got to say.
Yeah.
We're trying to give you the chance to get it all out. So.
Okay, Adrian Balcom, 1518 Forensic Court. Okay, so a notice of the wording is consider the adoption, okay? If developers want to come and develop, you guys have to hold the line. Got to hold the line, and they're going to be open to discuss with you different types of changes that can happen, okay? You don't have to make those types of decisions right now. Again, this is why it's important to go back and research or look into the surveys and what we have said. Making these changes is going to set up precedents for other things to happen again, and we don't want to do that. So I would recommend denying it. If they choose to come back and make some changes that will go with our plan, that's because we have a comprehensive plan right now, just go along with that, then that can be done. So changing the definition is not the best route. So you guys need to hold the line. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. Next.
Val Bodart, 402 Cattle Baron Drive. I totally agree with what Adrian just said about holding the line. Just because you can doesn't mean you should or you should have to. First, I want to commend these property owners from the ETJ, from Savannah Hills, for coming up here for 2 nights in a row. I was here last night, and many of them are here again too, to state their cases and to tell you how much they love where they live, just like we do, and why we should, even though they're in the ETJ and don't pay city taxes, as good neighbors, we owe it to them to look out for what they prefer. And that's a big investment. Your home is your biggest investment, and with land also. Last night, the Planning and Zoning Commission, they wrestled really hard. If you haven't watched that video, you really should have watched it before tonight. They decided to disapprove the requests, but without prejudice, because they were told that you all would pay really good attention to what happened last night. And these people are counting on it too. And also, if you approve the minimum lot size requirement of to 1 acre, you're betraying the trust of the rest of the citizens of the city. Wait until the comprehensive plan is done, and then let's decide how we want to go forward. We have so many people on these committees that are working hard to try to get this done. Let them do their job, and I've said this before, let them do their job or disband them. You can't just go around just willy-nilly changing property lot sizes to suit what you think we need to do for property taxes.
Thank you. Next. Anyone else on 5? Yes,
5.3. Hi, my name is Sherry London. I live at 216 Harvest Ridge Drive. So I moved here almost 3 years ago from Southern California. And since then, my husband and I have gone around to surrounding counties giving a talk called Don't California My Texas. And I'd like to say to you guys tonight, don't rockwall my McLendon-Chisholm. When I was looking for property, I wanted to live on at least 1 acre. My husband, 5 to 10 acres. I'm like, honey, let's see if we can mow 1 acre. Let's see what we can do. And when you put that into the Zillow search, it pops you out of the Dallas Metro, and it pops you out of Rockwall for the most part, unless you've got big bucks to live on a big lot on the lake, which was not in my plan. So all of a sudden I see all of these properties coming up in McLendon-Chisholm, and I start looking in the zip code. And one of the things that I did, because I'm that nerd, I actually looked at the city website, and I found the comprehensive plan, and I read it. And when I read that the minimum lot size was 1.5 acres, we wanted to preserve the open rural feel, it was music to my ears, and I thought, hallelujah, I have found my home. And I heard that at the Planning and Zoning Commission by a lot of the people that are here from the ETJ. A lot of those people who spoke last night were from the ETJ, and a comment was made that, you know, with respect, they're not citizens of our city. And to that, I would like to say 100%. They are not citizens of our city. And on the Planning and Zoning Commission, what I wrestled with, along with the fellow commissioners, were that we just hadn't heard enough from people of the city to rubber stamp something that we weren't sure that I could go back and look at my neighbors in the eye and said, this was okay. I did what I think you'd want me to do. The only thing I have to go by of what the citizens want us to do is the comprehensive plan. And it's been pointed out this comprehensive plan was made after Sonoma Verde and a dozen other smaller lot size communities were already here. So I can only imagine, while I wasn't here in 2016 to make it, that there was a reason they said 1.5 acres and not something smaller, because they had something smaller. They made a conscious decision. And it took a year of public participation to develop, and they came to that conclusion. And since we're at the point in time where we're looking at that again, I said last night, and I'll repeat it, you know, progress is good, and if the citizens of McLendon-Chisholm come together and they say, you know what, y'all, we're fine with an acre, let's do it. I wouldn't be very happy about it because that's not what I want, but if the majority of my fellow citizens, that's what they want, then yeah, that's what I'll be bound by. But I don't know that now, and I don't think you can know that now. There's plenty of other places to live on a smaller lot. It was even suggested, you know, if we don't annex and develop that 90 acres, they could put a pig farm on it. They could do whatever they want. I personally have a situation where somebody put something in the ETJ not too far from where I live that's not something that I love. But they're not going to put a pig farm there. They're going to put houses, because unless there's something I don't know about ranching and farming that makes a gazillion dollars, the best thing you can do with that piece of property is put some houses on it if you want to cash in. And I have no problem with a property owner cashing in. But I just want it to conform to what the citizens are expecting, what I as a citizen was expecting when I moved here. And the last thing I'll say is that even being on planning and zoning, I didn't realize until I had read through the packet and had a chat with our city planner last night that by approving a change to the comprehensive plan, we weren't just talking about this development, but that we were talking about something that would affect all future development in the city. And that really gave me some concern because, you know, I try to think I'm a little bit connected, but it just went right past me. And I think it went probably right past the majority of the citizens. They don't really realize the implications of what happened last night and what's happening here tonight. The people that are here are the people that are neighbors, and they can be dismissed as NIMBYs and all that kind of thing. But I'm here to talk on their behalf, but also on mine, because I think that before we make a move like this, we really need to hear from more people in the city if we want to be able to look our neighbors in the face. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next. Anyone else for 5? Okay, there we go.
Good evening. I'm Chris Burleson at 825 Poland Road. Really, a lot of the points that I brought up last night have been mentioned and reiterated this evening, but I would like to go over a couple more points and also just point out some comments by the committee members last night that I thought were kind of surprising and informative. So some of the determinations made by the Planning and Zoning Committee themselves last night were The application and draft ordinances don't just simply address this 165 acres as you've heard. They address the whole future land use of the entire city. So that's a big point, and as was just mentioned, the committee member themselves had no idea that this was going to be the case. So how in the world would the entire city have adequate notice to come here and show up and have all their voices heard? So that's probably a big deal that would warrant tabling this, and we're already doing the comprehensive plan update. So why not pump the brakes a little bit and ask the entire community what they think about it? Also, the changes that are being contemplated aren't just simple or insignificant amendments to the current plan and future land use map, because there's at least a dozen inconsistencies that were noted yesterday, and large inconsistencies, material inconsistencies. One committee remarked along those lines that a handful of people should not be responsible for making such broad changes to the future planning of the whole city without much more community feedback. Several other committee members also asked, how can the committee know what the community wants without opportunity for further survey and input from them? Also, it was noted the proposals deviate materially and significantly from the spirit, intent, and goals of the plan and map, to such an extent that some committee members were worried they may violate their duty to the community in general if they approved it under the current proposed plan. So that was interesting to hear their concern about violating their duty. And really the only justification was to get the minimum lot size down to an acre. Let's see here. The committee found the plan doesn't conform to the current surrounding community or the stated policies. There have been no change conditions which would necessitate an exception to this spot as currently zoned. Committee was also concerned that approving the development may open the floodgates to similar 1 acre or less volume or tract developments on Pullen Road or surrounding areas. As it's my understanding from some of these meetings that we went to with a county commissioner, that there's currently a pending contract with some of the land to the west of this proposed development. So I think there's some concern that if this is approved, then perhaps much more of Pullen Road would be 1 acre lots or less, same type of communities. So some other issues that were raised yesterday include consideration as to whether the request would arbitrarily treat landowners and the applicant preferentially and to the detriment of the whole community to simply realize a higher profit. Could the changes requested be considered piecemeal zoning, which the Texas Supreme Court has described as illegal spot zoning? Is there any reason to use PD zoning? This kind of goes to the next hearing. I'm jumping into that a little bit, but other than to circumvent the minimum lot size requirement, and could that be considered a violation of the city code, which it expressly forbids using that zoning just to cut the minimum lot size down? So could going to such lengths without changed circumstances potentially subject the city to spot zoning, due process, and other zoning abuse claims, which I don't think the committee or you would like to recommend or put the city in that situation. So to end here, just have a couple of requests. Again, I think I echo one that says that we want these items removed from the consent agenda, please, related to this proposed development. And if there's any council member that has an interest or whose relative has an interest in a neighboring property to the proposed development that is under contract, please consider recusing themselves or abstaining from deliberations or voting. If that may be a conflict of interest, if such council members approving could financially benefit that council member or their family, we'll just ask for consideration of that if that's going to affect your decision here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next.
Mark Kipp at 31 Fireside, McLendon-Chisholm. So I guess I'm the guilty knucklehead last night that asked a rhetorical question, what's the difference between 1 and 1.5 acres. So I'll start, so it's clear, make a clear, definitive statement. I support the current comprehensive plan as written. I was involved in the drafting of that comprehensive plan, and I strongly supported the 1.5 acres. Now, moving forward, I also recognize that 4 of our most recent developments are less than 1 acre, or I'm sorry, less than 1.5 acre. They're all beautiful. They are all vibrant. They all contribute strongly to our community. So I think there is an open question that needs to be addressed. We've been discussing the comprehensive plan for the better part of 2 years. So I said some tough love last night. I'm going to say a little more tough love tonight. It's time for planning and zoning to do their job and get the comprehensive plan done. It has waited too long. Part of that issue is, of course, what I've been involved in with economic development with my colleague, Mr. Herron. We also know that that needs to be done, and we need to get the comprehensive plan moving because we have a lot of bills coming. For my good neighbors over in ETJ, I am 100% with you in understanding your concerns. I would be your stronger advocate if you were part of the city. That's an easy request for annexation, and I think given the public safety concerns I heard, it would be appropriate because as the city grows, we're going to have greater public safety concerns. We'll be far better advocates for you involved in the city than you will be individually going to the sheriff's department or whomever. So I think there's a lot of emotion in the room, but I think more importantly, there's a lot of coming together that needs to take place. So we can grow together as a single community, do the right thing, because the last thing, I also know how much effort, time, and energy and resources developers put into this and landowners put into this. And we have a lot of landowners that, you know, I don't want to California my Texas. I certainly don't need to have lectures about how I should be using my land, right? That's sort of inherently Texas. So there are landowners that have land I'm friends with, and they have a right. They have tended that land in some cases for 100 years to be able to utilize that land and move it forward appropriately. Big names in this community that, candidly, the community wouldn't exist without them. So we need smart development. We need everybody to work together and move forward. And as far as council in these matters, as much as I hate to say kick the can, that's probably the best answer, and see what you can get out of the community. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Anyone else on 5.3? All right. It is 7:32. 5.3 is closed. We'll move on to 5.4. Public hearing to consider a request by Ryan Joyce for a zoning change on 164.591 acres of land. And it's got Rockwall CAD numbers 10-846, 10-851, 53878, 53879, 10-852, 51678, 10-848, 10-850, 69, 591, and 46003. Approximately 90 acres, more or less, are located within the McLendon-Chisholm ETJ, with the remainder located within the city limits, generally located at the southwest corner of the intersection of Poland and Sinks Road, from agriculture zoning to planned development district zoning, which provides for residential development with lot sizes not less than 1 acre in size. Mike, did you need to deliver more information on this one?
Since the Planning and Zoning Commission hearing last night, I modified the staff the recommendation, not the staff recommendation, but the recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission. The Planning and Zoning Commission, as it relates to the Plan Development District and the concept plan, recommended denial without prejudice. And the difference between denial with prejudice and denial without prejudice is without prejudice, an applicant could make an application tomorrow if the council were to deny it without prejudice. At the meeting last night, the concept plan was changed from 134 lots to 132 lots, increasing basically the 2 lots that were reduced were put into open space that along the Pullen Road side. And then there was a connection between Sinks and Pullen that becomes which was not shown on the original concept plan. And you have that, the new concept plan I think is in your packet. And it shows the fire apparatus access along Sinks. And the applicants, the property owners in this case, are both Charles Sinks and Reggie Hickerson. They are the 2 property owners for the entire 164.591 acres. Hickerson owns all of the 90.1 acres that's in the ETJ, and Mr. Sinks owns the remainder of the 74.591 acres that are currently in the city. We put in the standards for 1 acre development in the Planned Development District development standards. They're in your packet. You can see the setbacks. It runs very close to the standards that we had in the 1.5 acre, SF 1.5 acre zoning district. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have about the zoning before you start the public hearing.
At which point do we get to ask Mr. Joyce questions?
I think right after I get done, ma'am, would be good time, because I believe he may have a little bit of a PowerPoint presentation.
Okay.
Are you done?
Any questions for Mike? If not, Mr. Joyce?
Now I know how news media feels. My name is Ryan Joyce, 1189 Waters Edge Drive, Rockwall, Texas. Mr. Mayor, Council, good evening, and thank you for the time this evening. First of all, I want to applaud all the citizens that came here tonight. It's very encouraging to see this much involvement in their city government and in the things going on in and around their community. I did have a very spirited meeting with the Savannah Hill homeowners a couple weeks back, and I do thank them very much for their time and attention and their hospitality during that meeting. I just wish I would have brought some wine. It might have gone a little bit better. Miss Lisa, if you could. Thank you. So our objective here tonight is to create an estate-style option for new residents to McLendon-Chisholm by not only enhancing the beauty of the surrounding area and a new community that does conform with several aspects of the comprehensive plan, but while also balancing with current market trends and market demands. And we obviously are all very aware of where this property is located at. As we zoom in here, you can see Savannah Hill to the northwest of us. All the land to the north of us is all county property. And then we have some county property adjacent to us to the southwest, and then city property directly down to our southeast. This particular slide here kind of gives you a little bit of a pictorial of the area that's located inside the, currently inside the city limits. This is just an estimate, so Mr. Coker's actual is a little bit closer, but the area in yellow is the area that is approximately located inside the ETJ, with the green area being the approximate area located within the city. As Mr. Coker mentioned, our future land use map, you can see here all the areas shaded in gray are inside the ETJ or inside the jurisdiction of the county. And then you can see the dark line does show the city limit line for McLendon-Chisholm. Our proposal tonight and does include 132 residential units, as you can see on our proposed layout here. If we go back to, well, this side doesn't show it. So, Sinks Road is on the thoroughfare plan as a major north-south, or actually kind of northwest-southeast. Sinks Road. Pullen Road runs to our. Now you got my directions all messed up, Mr. Coker. So we have Pullen Road that runs kind of along our north-south, or our north side. Sinks Road is shown on the future thoroughfare plan for the city of McLendon-Chisholm, and we are showing a portion of that Sinks Road, a portion of that thoroughfare running through our development. We were able to pull that thoroughfare off of where it's shown existing, which is running directly behind the lots along Savannah Hill. So we were able to move that interior where we had the ability to do so. You can see here from the yellow portion of the lots we have laid out here, from that corner where Sinks Road kind of cuts in, we don't control the proper amount of right-of-way for the entire full width of the thoroughfare. So we are dedicating what is now privately held Sinks Road. We are dedicating the balance of that property to the city for their future use and for the future thoroughfare there, and also utilizing that as a secondary fire apparatus access.
Quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have a question?
Mr. Hodges did as well.
So. Just a quick one.
Yes.
On the bottom left of the screen, what are those lot sizes compared to, say, the interior lot sizes?
Every lot here is 1 acre minimum. All the lots are 1 acres at a minimum. There are a few lots that are exceed an acre, but they're all less than 1.25 acres. We did try to vary the lot sizes a little bit in order to provide a little bit of articulation throughout the community as far as lot widths go. With a 1 acre minimum size, as your lot width gets larger, your lot depth gets a little bit smaller. So you can see there's kind of some fat square lots that are 1 acres. There's some not so fat longer lots, and then there's some longer skinnier lots. But all lots are a minimum of 1 acre in size.
So are those lots that are along the Savannah Hill subdivision area, are those the larger lots? That's what it looks like. I just didn't know if that was the case.
All of the lots that are adjacent to Savannah Hill, those are all 1 acre in size.
Okay. So where are the 1.25 acre lots?
So up near the pond towards the entrance, so kind of the southern pond, those lots that run right through there, those all vary in size from 1.18 acres to 1.04 acres. Along the southern boundary, you have some larger lots down that way that vary anywhere from 1.8 acres, where that pond is at down there in the bottom. Those 2 lots here in the corner, those are actually 1.8 acres in size. And then along that boundary line, continuing almost kind of towards that open space to the eastern side, some of those lots are also a little bit larger than 1 acre.
Have you guys configured what a 1.5 acre lot minimum would look like? How many lots would that be?
A 1.5 acre minimum on this would be approximately about 104 lots. And we have taken a look at that, and we have tried to work within several different parameters of a project in order to facilitate that. It's not something that we're able to do at this time.
And is that going to be an HOA?
Yes, ma'am. It will be controlled by an HOA.
And will the roads be considered private roads?
Yes, ma'am. The roads will be private and maintained by the HOA.
The entire length of the subdivision?
Yes, ma'am.
Entity?
Yes, ma'am.
Will they be curbed or?
They will be rural street sections, so much like the Savannah Hill development, they will have front yard swells with driveway and culverts.
Will they have sidewalks or anything like that? I've not gone through that.
A typical rural street section does not have sidewalks associated with it. No, ma'am. There's not the width in the street to do that.
No curbs either, I presume?
No, ma'am.
How much recreational spaces?
Collectively, there's a total of about 8 acres of recreational space. You have about 3 acres on the, I guess what would be considered the southeast side. And then you have the open space there at the front with those 2 remaining ponds. Those ponds will stay intact with some cleanup and restoration work done around them to provide an area for people to go to.
The fire apparatus road, is that also going to be maintained by your subdivision?
Yes, ma'am. We have no problem with that.
And what type of fencing are you planning to put up there?
For the fire apparatus
No,
road?
fencing for the community, like wood, wrought iron.
So here in a couple more slides we can get to that, but I'm more than happy to answer that right now. So we have offered to not allow any type of privacy fencing. So only opaque fencing will be allowed. Tubular steel, wrought iron type fence would be the only fencing that would be allowed within the development.
Is the community going to be gated, or is you going to allow public access to the recreational facilities?
The recreational facilities will be publicly accessible. There will not be a gate at the entryway to the development.
Council members, I'm getting a request to have you scoot closer to your microphones and speak up, please.
Okay. And what would you suggest in today's dollars the average home price of what you're going to construct?
So I can't speak directly for the builder that will be building the homes in here. If I had to put my estimation on it, I would say probably they would start in the low 500s and escalating up from there.
What builders are you currently?
We are currently under contract with Altura Homes for all of the lots within this community.
Any other questions for Mr. Joyce? No, sir. All right. Thank you, sir. I don't know. Are you done with that presentation, or you still got more?
No, sir. I still have some more.
Okay.
I can kind of run through a lot of this. So, a lot of these questions have already been answered, so I won't hit too hard on them. These are typical lot sizes of 125 feet in depth. We are offering to offer architecturally upgraded garage doors with a 2,200 square foot minimum on all the homes. Some of the particulars around the PD are listed here, and you have those there in front of you. One thing that we did do is this. Well, she's got me fancy. One thing that we did do is we did add a provision that all of the lots that back up to the Savannah Hills development, we are offering to plant 3 cedar trees along the rear property line of those lots. And so as you can see here in this slide, the area highlighted in green there, we are adding some additional landscaping parameters to those lots in order to provide a little bit of vegetative screening, natural vegetative screening to those homes. So the current comp plan calls for 0.67 units per acre, and you've heard that mentioned several times tonight. The plan that we have before you is 0.80 units per acre. I heard a couple of comments about don't rockwall my McLendon-Chisholm. Rockwall's current zoning is 2 units per acre. Frisco is 4 to 5 units per acre. So as far as density goes, we feel like we're extremely close to what the comprehensive plan says. Again, we do have the restrictions on the privacy fence, which will help maintain the open space and the open feel to the community. And we are asking to be annexed into the city. Inside the county, there are no restrictions. Recently, with changes in law from the state of Texas, municipalities are no longer allowed to regulate or prohibit specific building materials. So I've heard a couple of questions about a PD and why do a PD. With doing a PD, we are voluntarily placing restrictions upon the community that benefits the city. 80% masonry being stone or brick, no privacy fences. Without those types of restrictions, that only helps uphold the value of the products that we're putting in here. A lot of the concerns that you've heard this evening are about the schools, property values, the existing infrastructure, And so just real quick to touch on the schools, RISD is currently building a 16th elementary school. They do an extremely great job in due diligence and monitoring growth and monitoring development in and around the county. They have projections out to 2050 with every grade level accounted for as far as how many students they anticipate being in every grade level. They hire demographic consultants in order to compilate these items for them. And so they do a very good job. Dr. Villarreal is an excellent leader when it comes to planning. I've had the opportunity to speak with him on many times and also serve on the Rockwall ISD Advisory Council this past year. In addition to that, they're looking to change or restructure the middle school program. This is going to help eliminate some of the stress that's placed on the elementary schools. I have kids. I have 3 kids. We live in Rockwall. Our kids are part of the Rockwall school system. And so we understand the concerns there about overloading the schools. One thing I also did want to mention to that is this is not snap your fingers tomorrow and there's 130 houses on the ground. This is at least probably a minimum of 12 to 15 months until we start building the infrastructure. Then you have probably approximately 12 to 15 months until infrastructure is complete. And then you're probably looking at an absorption rate of somewhere between 30 to 40 units annually. So you're looking at a 4-year project here. So if you have kids in elementary school here now, by the time this thing is fully built out, most of your kids will be out of elementary school. But additionally, with Rockwall looking to change the middle school structure, then you're probably looking at a completely different system altogether there. I also heard a few comments about property values, and I know that's a big concern amongst everybody. There are several developments inside the city limits right now that do have 1-acre lots. Kingsbridge, Kensington, Quail Run, even Chisholm Crossing, that all have 1-acre lots. I was able to pull a little bit of information this afternoon in regards to some 1-acre product that is currently within the city. And I apologize for not having slides for these. Mr. Mayor, if I may approach. So what you're looking at here is a Rockwall CAD property statement for a particular parcel of land. I have redacted all of the personal information here, but this information is publicly available on the Rockwall Appraisal District website. This is for a home located within Chisholm Crossing, Phase 4. This is a 1-acre lot. And if you'll turn over to page 2, page 2 does give the square footage of the particular property at 3,067 square feet. About 2/3 of the way down on page 2, you can see that in 2020, this property had an assessed value of $468,000, which gives it an approximate price per square foot of $153. Mr. Mayor, may I approach one more time, please?
Yes, sir.
So this next parcel, again, pulled from the Rockwall Appraisal District website, is for a property located within the South Ridge Addition along Savannah Hill. Page 2 will show that this particular property has 3,300 square feet of living space with an appraised price of $503,000, which equates out to $152 per square foot. Now, one other thing that I did want to point out is if you'll go back to the first handout, If you look down at the bottom of page 2, you will notice that I did not redact the original grantor of the warranty deed. This particular house was built by Altura Homes. And so as you can see from this, Altura Homes does build a very quality product, and a product that's comparable on a price point with the homes that are located within Savannah Hills. The next, I'm going backwards here. So another concern that we heard about this evening is infrastructure. TxDOT is a reactive organization. The county is a reactive organization. AT&T, also a reactive organization. These organizations need to have a reason to make improvements. That requires rooftops. It requires development in the area in order to make those improvements. And so lastly, before I finish up here, I just wanted to show you some representative pictures of some products. So this is a 1 acre home site located within Chisholm Crossing. This is just a street view picture. As you can see, this is very open. This is very, there's a lot of space here. There are no privacy fences in this picture. And then you can see some product representative photos from Altura Homes of the product that they build. Usage of exterior masonry materials, exterior roof pitches, varying elevations. And then as far as the interior goes, you can see the quality that they put into their homes in order to warrant that price per square foot. So these are not shoddy products, so to speak. As far as the entry feature goes, or the entry monumentation off of Pullen Road, we are proposing to clean up the open space there. Right now it is very congested, it is very overgrown. You can't see anything as you come through there. So we are planning on cleaning that up, opening it up, clearing out all the underbrush, making it usable space there, and all while preserving the natural vegetation that does exist there. Now, this last couple slides, I did a quick search to see what was available in the area for lots less than 0.75 acres. And you can see there's 50 properties listed for sale, and this is just off of Realtor.com, but there's 50 properties listed for sale in McLendon-Chisholm, less than 1 acre. Now we'll look at the properties available for sale at 1 to 2 acres. At 1 to 2 acres, there are no properties for sale. There's 2 properties located within the city limits of McLendon-Chisholm for sale. And you can see those here. Directly to the southeast of those 2 properties is the Chisholm Trail, or the Chisholm Crossing development. There are no lots available, or there are no homes available for purchase in a 1 acre category. So we feel like this is a product that the city needs. We feel like there's a demand for this type of product. There already are there's already product available, 80-foot lots, 70-foot lots, things of that nature. But the 1 acre lots, there's just no product available. Even up to a 2 acre lot, there's not anything there. So with that, I do thank you for your time, and I'll be happy to answer any additional questions.
Okay. Would you happen to have the smallest square foot in Savannah Hill, on Savannah Hill? Would you happen to know what that is? Or does anybody know?
I do not know what the smallest residential unit is in Savannah Hill. No, ma'am.
You don't know the size?
No, ma'am, I don't.
It's $26.98. Okay. So, all right.
No. Will? Nathan? No, sir. You got any additional questions? This one's
Are you opposed to putting in sidewalks? I mean, just by listening to what the residents and other ETJ residents have suggested, what they're wanting is more of a way to be, to get to each other's neighborhoods or whatever by sidewalks and, that. Are you willing to do anything? Because when you showed that one home that's actually in my neighborhood, it does have sidewalks, and it is very helpful to have that, to get the kids off the streets and on the sidewalks. I mean, you can tell that that's what everybody here kind of, I mean, if you were listening, that's what they want. They want to have an area to go play, but not have to be in the streets to go get there. I'm just throwing something out there for you to think about. I mean, you don't have to answer anything. Just think about what the people are saying to you.
We are definitely open to that. If you would show me a little bit of grace and let me find out if that's amendable to our builder.
I'm just saying, just if you'll listen to what they're saying, that's pretty much how you'll get what you need. Because we have a lot of kids in our area. I mean, you can tell by the school system that they're concerned about. You can tell by the play areas that they want to have. Just things like that. Just make it to where you would want to raise your family in.
No, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am, for sure.
All right.
One other comment. You even said it yourself that the biggest demand is that 1 to 2 acre lot size. I'm having a difficult time understanding why can't we bump it up to a 1.5 acre minimum. If the demand is you said it yourself, 1 to 2 acres, I don't see the challenge. Again, I'm not a developer, so.
So there's several different parameters that we look at with every piece of property that we look to develop. And I by no means am a large developer. It's myself and my wife that work for our company. It's just us two. We are very small potatoes when it comes to the development world. But we have several parameters that we work within, and kind of the leading parameter of that is the price of the property. We actually went back to the sellers this morning and asked them if there's anything we can do from a price standpoint on the property in order to facilitate some larger lots. Maybe not all 1.5 acre lots, but a few here and there. And so we did go back and ask them this morning. They denied our request for that. So, we have several different things. When you look at infrastructure, when you go to a smaller lot size, your infrastructure cost remains the same. You still have the same amount of water line you have to put in. You still have the same amount of streets that you have to put in. None of that changes. So the only parameter that can change there is the size, is the price of the land itself. So the price of the property. With the landowner not being willing to negotiate that aspect, we've been working on this project for a long time. They're ready to get things finalized on this deal. So we did go back to them and ask them, this particular property, the way the price point lays out, construction costs are only getting more expensive. They haven't gone down in the past 15 years, I don't think ever. So the price of concrete's gone up, the price of water line has gone up, the price of equipment's gone up. So those costs just continue to escalate. So there has to be some give and take there on the price of the property. Where this particular property is priced at, the 1 acre lots is what's most feasible.
Might I ask you go up to at least 3,000 square feet, and maybe that would be helpful? Because if you're getting $153 a square foot, it would make more sense on an acre lot. I mean, I've lived in a home that was on an acre lot, and it was more than twice that. So it's doable.
So it's definitely doable. What we don't want to do is price the empty nesters out or get a square footage that's so high that the empty nesters don't have a place to go. If I may approach one more time, please.
Sure.
So I was a little short on copies. This is another property that is located within the Chisholm Crossing development, again, a home built by Altura Homes. You can see the square footage on this property is 2,500 square feet. And if I remember correctly, the price per square feet multiplies out to be approximately 152 or 153, 155 $155 a square foot. So even at a lower price point or even at a lower square footage, we're still maintaining that quality and we're still maintaining that price per square foot upon which appraisals are centered around. So by having a lower square footage minimum, it does allow for empty nesters a place to go that they want to get out of the city. They want to get out of the major metropolitan areas, and so it does provide those people a little bit more of an option.
So what is your square foot variance from, I think I heard last night it was 2,200 is the smallest. What is the largest?
I believe that Altura has plans up to 4,000, 4,500 square feet. I mean, they have some big ones up there.
So will there be model homes, or will it all be done at a design bureau, or how will they do that?
So with the size of this property, and I can't speak directly for them, but from my experience with the number of lots that are here, we are planning on doing this all in one phase. So there will more than likely be a model home on site that will allow potential buyers to tour that home, and then they typically do their selections at a location offsite.
And are you looking at, have you broken it out between 1 and 2 story?
No, ma'am, we have not.
Just playing devil's advocate here, let's just say that you purchased the land, and since building prices are so high right now, what makes you not just want to wait until building prices go down, and then you'll get more money for the homes and everything else, instead of like building now when...
If you would like to lend me the money to just buy the land, I'd be more than happy to buy it and sit on it. So we understand that prices and materials are very volatile right now. There is a lot of movement in lumber prices and window prices and things of that nature. While they're seeing some of that in price increases across the entire building industry, a lot of that hit is being absorbed by the home builders themselves. But there is no indication currently with the current market and with the pandemic going on, there's no indication those prices are going to come down anytime soon. A lot of your large national home builders have actually gone to bulk purchasing supplies and storing them in warehouses themselves. Altura is a small company. They're based here in McLendon-Chisholm. Their headquarters is right here. So they are a smaller company, so they don't have the ability to do that. So they've elected to continue building on smaller margins in order to keep facilitating their business.
Any further questions?
And you stated that those one homes will be backed up right up to Savannah Hill? I mean, they'll be back-to-back yards, or will there be a barrier between them, or?
I shouldn't have been so fancy. So as you can see here, there is the existing Sinks Road. That is a private road that runs back there, and that does act as a buffer between the two properties.
Okay, so the Sinks Road, I've been on that. It's dirt road. It's a rock road.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're going to give that to the city?
Yes, ma'am.
Take care of
yes, ma'am. Well, all of the roads are privately maintained, but the right-of-way will be dedicated for city use. So the city's thoroughfare plan requires that particular road, or requires there to be a 2-lane minor collector street called Sinks Road that runs right through there. And it actually shows it running straight through. There is some verbiage in the comprehensive plan in the thoroughfare plan that does allow for developers to skew that direction or skew the alignment of that road. So where we were able to do that, we did choose to skew that road in order to back it off of the existing homes, because the thoroughfare plan shows it abutting the existing homes there along Savannah Hill. And so we chose to move that interior in order to not have that road run along the backside of that existing development.
So is it behind the green? Is that what you're saying? That's the Sinks Road right there?
That is the existing Sinks Road, yes, ma'am. And so where So right here, where Sinks Road will turn, it turns into the community. This existing old Sinks Road back here, which is private, will be abandoned, but you can see that space is maintained between the two properties. So there will be approximately a 50-foot buffer between the two.
Okay, so will there still be people able to go down that road? Because I noticed that you guys have like a lot of dust when you go down that road.
Sinks Road, where it ties into Pullen Road, will be an emergency fire apparatus access point only, so it will be gated at that particular location. There will be no public access down that street.
So there should be no more dirt or anything like
There
that?
should be nothing going back there whatsoever, unless there's a significant emergency that, unless there's two emergencies, one that blocks the main entry to the development and then another emergency within the development.
Or like a grass fire back there or something. Okay.
No. All right. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, Council, for your time.
Yes, Mr. Coker, go ahead.
If the council were to approve the planned development district and the concept plan, that's just the first step. Within the context of the planned development plan, then the second phase would be to provide a detailed development plan that would do a number of things. It would solidify the lot sizes, the locations of emergency fire hydrants and those kinds of things. And then that goes through planning and zoning and comes to the council for approval, detailed development plan. And then after that, if that gets approved, then they have to plat it. They have to subdivide it into the required lot sizes that conform to the subdivision regulations, the zoning, and the approved detailed development plan. And out of the subdivision is where we get the homeowners association, which you don't get to approve it, but you get to see it and see what it says that the homeowners are going to be responsible for and what we're not going to be responsible for. For instance, that fire apparatus access road, that is the emergency access, that's going to be, it's not going to be owned by the city. It's going to be owned and maintained by the HOA, and that'll be in the HOA covenants. So I don't want the council to think that were you to approve the zoning, which is really modeled after the 1.5 SF that we have currently, that's the end-all do-all. It's not, because, for instance, what Mr. Joyce said about the relocation of sinks on the thoroughfare plan, it shows as a future two-lane collector that comes across basically where Sinks driveway is today, and then all the way over to 550 through the next lot that's to the southwest. That'll require a modified alignment as a function of the thoroughfare plan, which is a function of the comprehensive plan, which I think the city is planning to get somebody to start on that this month. So anyway, I wanted to make sure that you understood that were you to adopt the zoning and the concept plan as it's shown up on the screen and in your packet, that is just step one. Then there's a lot of moving parts after that that you get to have a hand in throughout the future of that property.
Thank you, Mr. Copeland. All right, the time is 8:13. It's now open for public hearing.
Adrian Balcom, 1518 Forensic Court. Okay, you know, I'm glad that he put up the map. That's awesome. Things that you should take note about is the construction stuff. You don't have to worry about that. You know why? Because Altura and Highland, is it Highlands Homes? Yes, Highland Homes. They're all part of an incentive program. So the whole cost of how much building material and all that kind of stuff, don't worry about that. They will find a way. When a person wants to buy a house, they're going to buy a house. There's people all over the place coming from up north, coming down here. And one thing that was not on that presentation was Sonoma Verde. Did you notice that? There's homes that are available for purchase, and there's other phases that are coming through. He was talking about that he can be able to make probably these homes happening within the next 4 years, something like that. I don't know how many times have I heard this. It's like, well, you know, it's going to take a little bit of time, a few years for that to happen. Okay, just remember what phase we're in with the Sonoma Verde. You know, this is somewhat of a competition for us to get to where we want to get as homeowners. And I'm sure that you get complaints about some of the things that are happening, that we would like to be able to get to the end of that phase. So it's very frustrating. The maintaining of the HOA with the roads. I mean, you guys know how many times if you've heard that before with them taking care of their own roads and maintaining their own roads. So I would be asking some questions regarding, you know, what is it, would they consider coming back? We're not against development, but you can control the growth. So they can come back with some changes that will meet our lifestyle out here. They can do that. He seems like a nice guy. He can go back and talk to his people and see about making some changes. And so I would recommend that to again, deny and recommend to go back and make some changes.
Thank you, Andrew. Next.
My name is Susan Pinkerton. I live at 484 Savannah Hill Road, Savannah Hill Lane. Right now, our property is 1.8 acres, and we already have a pond in our backyard.
How much again?
1.8.
Okay.
We have a pond that the original owner put there, and that's part of the reason we bought our property. It was all about the whole atmosphere. We had a beautiful home when we were on the other side of I-30. So it was about the whole atmosphere and about the whole community. So if we have 1 acre homes being put in across from Sinks Road, where our home currently is, we're looking at, depending on how the homes are arranged, either 2 or 3 homes that we will look at from our backyard. I cannot fathom that that is not going to hurt the value of the whole neighborhood, not just our home, but the whole neighborhood. And it completely changes the atmosphere. And then I have a question about the road. So if the first part of Sinks Road is going to be for emergency access, and the other part is going to be closed off, but then it's going to be a thoroughfare, does that mean that behind our wrought iron fence, we're going to see traffic coming in and out? I don't understand that part. And if so, what does that look like going down with a wrought iron fence? That just doesn't fit to me, the whole schematics of our neighborhood. We've always felt like we will eventually look out from our backyard and see homes. But at 1 acre, it's very different than the 1.5 or bigger acres. And I don't think any of the homes, as far as like the majority of the homes, I think they're all, I would guess and say that the majority of them are only 1 acre, whereas ours are 1.5 to 2. that's part of it, but, you know, and all the other concerns are very, I have all of that too. But we're talking about the zoning part right now. So that's my main concern right now, is how that's going to fit. And then if that road becomes a thoroughfare, what does that look like in my backyard? Right? I mean, right, because our property line, our fence, I understand my fence is on our property line. So what does that do? So thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Peter Barter, 173 Savannah Hill Lane. Mayor, Council, I just want to clarify a few things to not leave a mistaken impression in Mr. Joyce's presentation. I don't have a slide, but I do have a map that Mr. Joyce gave me. The green that you're talking about up here in the front with the ponds, that area that he refers to as 8 acres of open land is on a busy road. I doubt seriously moms are going to say, go play by the busy road and fish. It's not likely to happen. This piece down here, Mr. Joyce explained to me, that's a capture basin for water. That even though it shows as green, it's going to be a deep pit to make sure that the water doesn't roll off the yard, the lawn, this land, any more than it currently does. There is no open area in here. That's a mistake, and you should really clearly hear that. The other thing you should clearly hear is if the planned development plan protects the city by allowing for some things that you can ask for, such as masonry and all of the things that he considered as advantages, then it also protects the city by saying it could be at 1.5 acres. The city ordinance that refers to the planned development specifically says it is not to be used to lower the standard size from 1.5 acres. Yet, in this planned development, there's really no open area to speak of. It doesn't conform to the current plan on residential rural areas for how neighborhoods should be built, and you don't gain anything from it. There's plenty of opportunities in a marketing position inside the city of McLendon-Chisholm where people who want a smaller lot can buy it. But by Mr. Joyce's own comments, there are no lots in the 1.5 acre range. It seems to me that makes a very good point. Thank you, Councilor. Appreciate you saying that. The biggest and most important thing about this to us is we only object to the fact that it doesn't fit the comprehensive plan. And if you're going to make a change to the comprehensive plan in this manner, the rest of the citizenry is entitled to have that hearing. And the notice wasn't done that way. Please tap the brakes. Nobody realizes that if you enact this, that you're changing the definition. The last time I heard that, it was let's change the definition of marriage. Have a pleasant day.
Have a nice, yes, sir. All right, next. Yes, ma'am.
Vanessa Friedenberg at 567 Savannah Hill Lane. So he stated that the children that are currently at school right now, they would not be affected because they are planning on building schools. The school has not started being built yet. My daughter's in kindergarten. So yes, she will be affected. I'm not speaking for one household, which is my daughter, but I want you to think about all the other children as well. I'm just the example, and I'm standing here today talking about the children who are going to school during Corona. And you know, as children at kindergarten age, it's very difficult for them to keep their masks on. And their teacher, who's over 50, trying to control this 27 kids currently and counting with their masks on when they're kindergarten. It's the first year of school. So they're just trying to get the drill on, you know, how to sit, what I do at school. Now you have the mask, and now you have more kids and a high-risk teacher. And like he said, there will be schools, but as it is right now, the school hasn't started being built. So yes, my children and the children who are currently at school right now, yes, they will be affected. Another point that he brought up is the empty nesters, that the empty nesters need homes. There are plenty of homes available. For an instance, like she said, at Sonoma Verde, they need to conclude their subdivision. They can go over there. They don't want that, well, then they can get even smaller home with acreage. There's many options out there. There's many options, but like I said before, for us, that we moved here, of that statement that's in the website of 1.5 acres or more, that's what we held to. That's what it sets us apart. We give that up, we're just like everybody else. Our house will be worth as any other house. We're no longer a unique community. And yes, we'll feel betrayed. Because why put that 1.5 there if you don't claim to stand by it? And do we have the right of just choosing for everybody else? If it wasn't one of our neighbors who walked down the street and kindly knocked on my door and let me know this was going on, I wouldn't even know. And I bet you most of Rockwall and McLendon-Chisholm, they don't even know about that either. So I ask you to consider that today. These people do this for a living. This is just money for them. They don't have to live there. We do. I've been to this community for 5 years. I have bonds to the community right now. My assets are tight. I'm emotionally tied to the community. I love this place. And of course it's going to grow, but are we ready to grow at this pace? And is the city that we want to live in a cramped city? Are you going to be able to walk around and drive around on 205? I ask you, also invite you all to take a drive through Pullen Road and Sinks Road, what he's talking about. But be careful. There are kids there with their bikes, and it's blind spots. Be careful. And this is today. Now we talk about adding 30 children a year on that road. If an accident happens, you're the one who's going to have to look the neighbors in the eye and say, I voted this.
Thank you.
The crier's back. Erica Hilton, 126 Savannah Hill Lane. I'm learning through this process a couple of things that I heard. My understanding is that the Sinks Road, it will still back up to the first 4.5 houses on Savannah Hill Lane. So once that becomes a thoroughfare, now the backyard that my kid plays in right at Sinks and Pullen is next to a thoroughfare. So that's a big concern, and that's going to affect me and 4 of my neighbors. Another concern is how they're going to grade the land. Right now, my backyard, the way they developed it, the water, when it rains, it runs right up to my porch. So if they grade all that, and then all that water from that neighborhood runs into our neighborhood, that's going to be in my house. So that's a huge concern on how they're going to develop that property and control the water flow. Mr. Joyce talked about the house that he was talking about that was built by Alturo, are actually my neighbors across the street. And I popped on to Rockwall CAD, and if my house was valued at the price of that house per square foot, I would right now lose $23,000 in value of my home. So that doesn't excite me. One suggestion, I mean, we're all complaining and saying what we don't like, but one suggestion, because I know this is going to happen, and I'm not against development, but to just make it more appealing to the people who are already out there, like Mr. Barter said, that green area up by Pullen Road, I'm not going to let my kid go fish at that pond because I panic every time she goes left out of the front door. But why not push that interior, or push that maybe where that Sinks Road is, and make that a green area? So that'll give a buffer between Southridge neighborhood and this new development, and make those lots 1.5 acres, and tie these communities together where everybody's getting what they want, and we're just more happy. Thank you so much.
You did excellent.
I did not cry.
Jim.
Good evening. Jim Herron, 1118 Warwick Court, McLendon-Chisholm. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I really wasn't going to speak tonight, but a couple things I wanted to clarify, and this I think is important for the City Council to think about as they're going forward with this, is the infrastructure issues. So currently 205 is rated, they rate city roads at A to F category. So during the peak times, F being the worst, 205 is an F during our peak times. So anybody who drives on 205, If anybody knows how far it gets backed up, I live in Kingsbridge. The traffic gets all the way backed up to our gate in the morning, so and past that. So Pullen Road's just right down the road, and so those people trying to pull out of that road, it's very difficult for them because 205 is at an F situation right now. The current plan to upgrade 205 starts in 2025, so that's not anytime soon. So this the comments that were made by Mr. Joyce were that the growth drives TXDOT, doesn't drive them quickly. So one of the other comments that I wanted to make about it is at Pullen Road. So the city only has about, 3.5 miles that the city's responsible for maintaining. One of those roads is part of it on Pullen Road from about where that subdivision is going to be back to 205. And so I'm just kind of giving an thought to this. What's going to happen if they're doing all the building on there? That road is going to deteriorate. It's not in the best of shape right now. Anybody who's driven on it lately, especially when you first turn off 205, there's a really bad area there. So think about that. If they're building 132 homes with all the machinery and equipment and trucks that are going to go in there to do that, how bad is that road going to be? Is the city council asking the builders to do something to help repair Pullen Road? That would be something I would be asking for because the city's responsible for that road, and so that would be something I would be looking for from them. The other area, there was something that somebody had brought up was the water situation. That's another infrastructure problem. This has happened multiple times that RCH has either lacks the capacity or does something to cause a shortfall in the pressure, and that's not getting better by adding more homes. It's actually going to exacerbate the problem. So I want to bring up these things so that you're thinking about it, because adding more homes, we're not afraid of growth. I'm on the Economic Development Council. I want the city to grow, but we have to do it responsibly. And so you can't adversely impact the people that already live here for some growth, for future growth. So those are things I just think we need to think about. And like I said, I didn't really want to talk, but I wanted to make sure that these points got across. The only two things I'd like, and actually were addressed towards CWD, was that I know that they're a waste management company, but I really think they should go to paperless. That way we don't generating as much waste in our. I know that they get paid by taking waste away, but I'd like to go paperless if we could. And I'd also like to see if they could go to an automated pay system, because right now you get a bill and then you have to physically go pay that bill every time. But this is 2021. I'm pretty sure there's ways they can automate their system. So we appreciate that if they could do that. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Chris Burleson, 825 Pullen Road. Just a couple more quick comments. I think to Mr. Joyce's statements about the price per square foot, you're comparing a brand new home versus a 15 or 20 year old home. So probably the acre and a half is really helping the people in Savannah Hill. So that could be the operative factor in the price difference there. And then also just since we're on the zoning piece particularly, has the city sought any legal advice, gotten any legal opinion as to whether these kind of maneuvers or the extent you're going to try and pass this, through changing the plan and future land use map and all that would be illegal spot zoning or not? So I would just ask you guys to consider that as you're thinking about making your decision.
Thank you, sir. If there's not anyone else, I'm going to close that one for the evening. It is now 8:32. All right, we're going to move on to the next thing, which is the consent agenda. I know it shows a listing of 6.1 through 6.7 on the consent agenda. It was brought to my attention on 6.1 that there was some errors in that.
Amplifications, actually.
Yes. So, would you like that one?
Yes. Yes, I would like to remove 6.1 from the consent agenda.
Before we go into the full consent agenda, Lisa, can we remove that and with the appropriate changes be it approved, or do we need to bring it off?
I think you need to bring it off if you want to consider any changes at all.
Okay. So we'll pull.
Discuss the item.
Huh?
Even if you're not taking action, if you want to do anything with the item,
on the consent agenda other than just approve it. Somebody needs to make it.
All right.
Hold off. Yeah, any item you want, I would make, if there's going to be more than one item, I would recommend making it each motion individually.
Okay. So with Mayor Pro Tem Kippett's request, we'll remove 6.1 off of the consent agenda because there are some questions and some errors on that.
Would you like me to go into that now?
As
No, wait till we do the whole agenda.
Or just, you can do the motion.
A motion for this one. So if you want to make a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to extract item 6.1 from the consent agenda.
Okay. I've got a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
All right. Show that one unanimous. Are there any other items?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we pull 6.5 off the consent agenda.
Okay. If we have multiple, Lisa, if we have multiple, they kind of go hand in hand. Can we address all three of them to pull off? Or individually? Okay. All right. I've got a motion for 6.5. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Any other items?
Item 6.6.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to pull that off the consent agenda.
All right.
Second.
Got a second? All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
So that unanimous? Any others?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we pull 6.7 off the consent agenda.
I've got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so the only things remaining on the consent agenda is 6.2, which is action regarding the minutes of the January 30th City Council Special Workshop / Retreat Session. 6.3, which is consideration adoption of the ordinance accepting and approving an amended and restated service and assessment plan, an assessment role for the Sonoma Verde Improvement District, specifically what we were talking about earlier in the improvement area number 3, and then 6.4 consider adoption of an ordinance authorizing the issue and sale of City of McLendon-Chisholm, Texas Special Assessment Review Bond Series 2021, which goes hand in hand again with the Sonoma Public Improvement District, or Improvement District Improvement Area number 3. So those are the only ones, 6.2, 6.3, and 6.4 on the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve all three of those.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the adjustments made.
I've got a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. I've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Show that unanimous. All right. Before we move into the rest of the items, which are the 7.1, 7.2, 7.3, and all those, it is...
We've got to do these too.
Huh?
We got to go back to these.
Oh, do we have to go... Do we need to go back to 6.1?
If you want to take, if you want to, they're pulled off, so they're now just like regular agenda items. So
Okay.
you can discuss them, vote on them.
All right, so let's go back to 6.1.
Okay, that'll be quick.
All right.
Okay, for item 6.1, Shelley, under 5.1, I would like to amplify what Mr. Sweet, Judge Sweet, and Ms. Neville talked about. They spoke about the website. They talked about the various vaccine hubs that are going to be in place and the request for volunteers to assist in vaccine dissemination. So I would just like that amplified. Okay, on item 7.2.
Hold on. We got to go one at a time. All right, I've got a motion to...
Wait, no, I've got more items in that same.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, for item 7.2, I would like to have it annotated that the Mayor Pro Tem Kippett asked for some information about lot sizes and numbering systems. I asked for if there was a need for an additional lift station, and I asked for clarification about the office lots by the schools. And then one more, under item number 9, where I spoke about the dedication towards working on city committees and boards. I would like to replace the word expenses with responsibilities to accurately reflect what I was mentioning. And that was it.
And that's all in 6.1?
Yes, sir.
Under the minutes?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Sorry, I got confused with
That's
the different
okay.
numbers.
That's all right.
All right. So with those adjustments, do we go ahead and approve it now, or do we want to wait until the next council meeting to approve it with the adjustments?
That would be up to the council.
Okay.
They can approve it.
Do you want to make a motion to approve it with those
I'd like to
adjustments?
make a motion that the minutes be approved with the changes that I requested.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
I wasn't here, so.
Okay, that's fine. And one that's abstaining because she was not present. All right. On to 6.5. There was a motion to pull that off of the consent agenda. William?
Yeah, so we could either discuss it or make a motion to discuss on it, or we could table it. Whatever you guys want to do.
My recommendation would be to table it until the next council meeting. That way we can get more information between now and then. But it's up to you on your motion. I don't think we're going to have enough information this evening.
No, we do not have enough information. Go ahead.
Oh, I would like to make a motion to table items 6.5, 6.6, and 6.7 because I think it's too important a decision to rush into, being that this has been our first reading of the issue. I'd like a second reading and a vote at the next meeting on the 23rd of February. I think that would be prudent and appropriate.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye. Show that unanimous. All right, now, before we move into 7.1, it is now 8:40. We're going to take about a 5 to 10 minute recess. Yeah, we've got time. Oh.
Better mad dash it.
All
trying to get everybody's attention.
Let's go.
I'd like to reconvene at 8:50. I think that's what time it is. I had to look at my new watch. Mayor had to go to work, so I am taking over the rest of the meeting. We're going to go to item 7.1. Our newly employed Code Compliance Officer Mark Woodruff is going to give us an update regarding the city's code compliance program. Chief, do you need to do some introductions?
Absolutely. It's Mark Woodruff, new code compliance officer. We were fortunate enough to be able to get a gentleman with his experience in here on a part-time basis. I worked with Mark for 6 years, about 6 years over in Faith. I know his work ethic. I knew that if Mark comes over here, we would have a lot of the same vision when it comes to what code compliance should look like. We both agree that our main goal is education. So Mark brings a lot of experience, and he's done a lot of work in a short time that he's been here. So he's just going to kind of briefly go over a few things. Mark?
Good evening. Thank you. My name is Mark Woodruff. I am the new Code Compliance Officer. I'm glad to be here. I'd like to tell you a little bit about our mission, vision, and our values. And our mission is to serve the citizens of McLendon-Chisholm by ensuring compliance with all the adopted codes, providing effective public contact and education throughout the community, and enforcing the law in an equitable and impartial manner. Our vision moving forward is to ensure that all citizens know that we are geared towards voluntary compliance. We're not about fines and fees and court costs and generating revenue for the city. We are about improving the quality of life here by making this community more clean, healthy, and attractive for those who live here, as well as those who visit. Our vision is to make sure that we promote a positive image of code compliance to our community and foster a team player concept that is known to be helpful, approachable, knowledgeable, and of the highest integrity. We are going to be conducting a neighborhood sweep of the Sonoma Verde subdivision. Chief, if you'll be so kind to be my Vanna White this evening, I would appreciate it, sir. Yeah, that's it. This is our, if you in your travels, if you have been through the Sonoma Verde subdivision, you will have, great job. You will have seen these signs posted. These signs are basically our neighborhood sweep signs, and they are for the top Tier 1 violations. Tier 1 violations are directly attributed to the property values of others. Those are high grass and weeds, trash and debris, inoperable vehicles, unsightly matter, and outside storage. And we will be conducting that neighborhood sweep this Friday, and it will allow citizens 10 days to bring their property into compliance with city code or call with their intention to do the same. Chief, you're doing a fantastic job, by the way. There you go. Thank you, sir. We appreciate you very much. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those. Yes, ma'am. Those are in the community. Those are posted Friday, January 29th, allowing 2 weeks before the sweep. And once we conduct the sweep itself this Friday, it will allow 10 additional days to bring your property in compliance with city code, or at least call with your intention to do the same.
I may have missed it while I was modeling. Did you tell them the first neighborhood that we're doing?
Sonoma Verde.
Okay.
Yes, Sonoma Verde. Yes. Right now, that's our first project. Yes, ma'am.
Now, did you post it on the Sonoma Verde website? Do they have?
No, we did not. We posted the signs in the neighborhood. So when you're traveling in your travels, you'll be able to see the signs, and they know that we're conducting the sweep. Nobody has called as of yet. So, and I actually canvassed the area today, so it looks pretty good.
And to that note, in the future as we go, this is the first one that Mark came up with doing the sweeps, and again, it's educating the community. So in the future as we move along, our goal is to be able to reach out to the HOAs, Jamie in this case, or the community director, I don't remember his name, but to let, ma'am?
It's Jamie.
Oh, it's okay. To let her know that, hey, this is what we're going to do. So she is aware of some of the projects. We've been communicating with different topics, but they understand the purpose.
I'm sorry, I just have to ask one question to ask them. Thank you for the sign.
Thank you. You're welcome.
The residents actually thought, because I know that there have been some residents that have contacted you, and thank you so much for answering them.
Right.
In regard to builders that are basically using a lot of high grass and debris.
Right.
And so I thought the signage was in relation to that.
If I may comment on that. The sweep will be conducted for all properties within the territorial limits of that subdivision. So that would include undeveloped tracts of land, land in the construction phase, turnkey properties, as well as properties that are vacant. So occupied and vacant properties. So it's everybody. So
We have, about 3 weeks ago, we went and met when Mark first came on board. He drew up a draft letter, and we took it out to every builder in Sonoma Verde to let them know that here we are, we're here, and that we're going to be monitoring you heavily, because that is a lot of our complaints, is the new construction debris. Most of them put forth the effort in putting the catch basins in play, but it's making sure that trash stays in there. So I know Mark's been out on a regular basis, and we did make contact to all them and say, here's what we're looking for, and here's the process as we move forward.
Mark, a couple questions for you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Has the notification been posted on the city's website, our Facebook page, that sort of thing?
Has it, Chief?
No, sir, not at this time. It has not.
No, sir.
Okay. Can we share that, Lisa?
Again, and being the first one, this is what we're finding out. So we're going to put forth more effort to make sure that we get it on Facebook pages, we get it on the HOA's Facebook page if they have it, and also on the city website.
And I don't know if it's proper to ask it. Can I ask you about a specific case or no? And the status of the case, or is that for a different time?
A case that we have going right now?
It's been ongoing for several years.
It's currently, and so I'll answer that for Mark.
Okay.
We currently have several cases that are in process now that are pending court appearances.
Okay.
So those cases are moving forward.
Okay. Thank you.
What are the consequences for the violations?
Well, that would depend on the violation. Typically, with a high grass and weeds case, if you don't abate, if there's no dialogue, you don't abate the nuisance, there's no phone calls, emails, etc., then we can hire a private contractor to go onto the property for the purpose of abating the nuisance and charge that back to the property owner of record with any kind of administrative fee we have in place, plus the fee for the services rendered by contractor.
You don't have a budget for that currently, though.
What's that?
You don't have a budget for abatement currently.
And what about for builders and things like that?
The same. We hold the builders to the same standard. We, if they don't abate the nuisance, we will actually go onto their property and correct the violation, charge them, send them an invoice for the service, and if they don't pay it, we'll file a lien on the property. So they have to satisfy the lien before they can move forward with that.
Builders are a little bit easier also because permits.
Yes.
So each and every one of these builders and our building official, when he goes out and kind of rolls into a topic real quick, our new software that the council approved for us to purchase, MyGov. So that software now with the building permits, code compliance, and the building official. So now if Mark is working a case in a subdivision or on a builder and he has violations or notice of notification in there, the building official would see it if he goes out to do a permit or an inspection. He can choose not to do that inspection until they comply with the city's request in regards to a violation.
Are you guys using that new software?
We're going through it right now. It's
a lot of work.
It's a work in progress, but I guarantee you, it's worth the time and effort. It covers the umbrella of departments.
We can fine people for different things.
Correct.
Like for example, really egregious, like dangerous to fire. Health safety is about $2,000 a day. Zoning, $2,000 a day. Other things are up to $500, different things like that. But our ordinances lay out different violations.
Correct.
This is a good thing. Long waited for this.
questions? Anything else?
Mr. Branch Chief, you have anything?
I'm good. I don't like standing here as much as you do, but
Okay. Well, I appreciate. I'd like to thank Chief
Thank you for your work.
for his help tonight. I appreciate it.
We're gonna have to do an assessment probably within the next 6 months if we need to make you full-time or part-time.
Okay, that'd be great. I'm going to take that on.
Okay.
So, thank you for your time. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, item 7.2, CWD Municipal Coordinator Jason Raymer or Romer? Raymer.
Yes.
Will deliver the CWD 2021 review.
Who's been waiting patiently for 2.5 hours.
Jason got to see government in action tonight.
It's not my first time. Just glad to be here. Less controversial. We can talk trash now. Good evening, council and staff. So I'm here this evening. My name is Jason Raymer. I'm the municipal coordinator for community waste disposal to provide to you your 2020 annual review. So to start things off, we are collecting the trash and recycling in your community and bulk items once per week. So we're picking up the CWD provided trash container and recycling container and 1 cubic yard of bulky material. Now I'll address some of Mr. Nichols' points along the way. With regards to residents using customer-owned trash containers, that's not within the contract, and the helpers or drivers are not required to pick up that trash. We remind them, that's some conversation I'll have with our supervisor to make sure we're only picking up CWD containers, because in theory they should be paying for that extra trash card if they have additional trash each week, which results in more franchise fees and things like that for the city. So we do encourage that. Picking up customer-owned containers is not something we're getting paid to do, and when the costs are in the disposal, that doesn't help us in either way. A lot of times they're just trying to make the problem go away, which is why they're doing it.
What if you had like a bagged trash at the,
and
you pick that up?
And that's what I was alluding to is by no means if it's, like you said, you had your family over Sunday and you've got a couple extra bags, they're going to pick that up. We are running rear load trucks, so that's not an issue. But the drivers that are there every week know the chronic problems that occur. This house always has 10 bags of trash or what have you. Usually we'll let the route supervisor and myself know and we can make contact. So. And we are running 3 trucks each week. One does trash and recycle in one area. The other one does the same thing. Each truck operates to where they'll go pick up a load of trash, go to the landfill, empty the truck, and return and pick up the recycle in the same neighborhood. Residential driver incidents. So we do keep track of this in a ratio that is per 100,000 service opportunities. So in the year 2020, there was 111,000 just over that service opportunities in your city. So that's every time we go down the road, pick up trash, that's 1, recycle, that's 2. So that's 2 service opportunities per home, per week, per month, calculated out throughout the year. Within that, we had 8 driver incidents. So driver incidents it could be a damaged property claim. Maybe you spilled oil on the street, we had a hydraulic line break, and had to send out a crew to clean that up. That would go to our safety department. There's an investigation with all of these claims. That also pertains to employee conduct, driver complaints, things like that all get recorded within this.
Do you know off the top of your head how many of those was just trucks getting stuck in the mud?
When we started the contract, quite a few. Right there on the loop on Frontier. Had that happen a couple times. The guys finally figured out that's not a road. So we haven't had any issues since then, but in theory, it wouldn't apply to that. This is really just to employees. So conduct, damage, or employee conduct. Yeah. Residential recycled material collected. So in 2019, we collected 323 tons. In 2020, the number was 334, which is about a 3.4% increase, which is probably along line with the city growth that you're seeing. with the new homes in Sonoma Verde and others that have added CWD services. So it's moving in the right direction. That's very on par with what we see in other communities in terms of pounds per home.
What facility does that recycled material end up at?
So all of the recycling material comes to our facility where each truck parks at the end of the day. So that's at 2010 California Crossing Road in Dallas. We have about 28 acres there. That's where we park all 165 trucks. Got a big 200,000 square foot recycling facility, and can do about, we're doing right now about 320 tons a day.
And I think one of Mr. Nichols' question is that proving to be
profitable
for you?
So it is productive because all of our municipalities, and for most of those in the Metroplex, have kept with their recycling program. But unfortunately, 7 years ago we were making maybe $140 a ton on average for recycling. Right now that number is about $35. So you can quickly do the math and see that it is a deficit in our company to collect and process recycling materials. The cost to do that per ton is below what the average cost of selling that ton of recycling. With that being said, it still has all the obvious benefits of being helpful to the environment and programs that cities take very seriously. But it is all coming back to CWD and is 100% being recycled. We don't own a landfill, so when that truck goes and picks up trash in the morning, goes to the landfill, goes and picks up recycling, he has to return to dump that recycling at our yard. He couldn't take that to a landfill where he's parking his truck and take a shortcut there. We would clearly find that within an hour.
Do you have cameras on your trucks? I know they do in the city of Rowlett.
We do. So almost every truck's equipped with, right now, smart drive safety cameras. I've got actually a slide later on some, I guess, upcoming additions to our fleet and technology. But yeah, smart drives continuously recording on the driver and forward facing. It actually triggers a recording every time there's a G-force event. So if he slams on his brakes or pops a curb, it'll record 5 seconds before, 5 seconds after, and sends us a safety performance review. Was he paying attention? Was he on his phone, eating or talking or things like that?
I'd like to bring up another point that Mr. Nichols brought up, was the fact that there's been several instances where, even with me in the service to my personal residence, where the garbage collection vehicle come out and empty all the carts into one vehicle at the same time. Like Mr. Nichols there, I definitely take the time to do all my separation, especially when I have large pieces of cardboard. I break it down, I fold it flat, I put it next to the cart, and hoping that when the recycling vehicle comes by, they take that with them, and it gets properly taken care of through the process. Just to see the first vehicle that comes by from your company take all that material that I took time to process and flatten down specifically for the recycle cart, just to be tossed into the standard garbage can.
Yeah.
So now obviously with our contract, we have recycling in our contract, and obviously with the policy with your company, you probably have recycling policy. Now, if we discover one of your drivers repeating that, what do we do?
Yeah, so that is a great question. I assume when that occurred, possibly recently, the driver not only took the cardboard you had next to your recycling cart, but dumped the contents of the cart as well.
I didn't actually witness it that specific time. That was just an additional example.
Yes. So as you alluded, it is 100% against our policy for any driver or helper on the back of the truck to contaminate a recycle load, or vice versa, landfill a recycling cart. We did have an instance on January 14th, which I think is the most recent one that occurred with Mr. Nichols' neighborhood, where we had a driver that went down Kentwood and was dumping both trash and recycling there early in the morning, which when you see that early in the morning, that's a red flag, because usually that's when they're doing their trash route. I'll get into why you may see a trash cart get dumped in a recycle load later in the day, but that's definitely a red flag, and we look for, when I see that complaint come across at 9 a.m., I saw this happen, that's an instant red flag. In that case, the driver took it upon himself. It was a very windy day. I had let Lisa know about that early in the morning. We were seeing trash and debris flying around, and the driver took it upon himself to help keep that debris from blowing around and the carts from knocking over by dumping the recycle with the trash, thinking he was doing everybody a favor. That driver was immediately removed from the route. He's now working in a different city. We took him off of McLendon-Chisholm. One too many of those complaints, and unfortunately that highlights one of the struggles we have in our industry is we've got a limited labor pool, and we expect these guys to do their jobs, but we can't watch them 24/7. So they do have a policy. They sign an agreement when they start our company not to mix recycling and trash, and that's a big deal, and that's a big accusation. So we take that very seriously. So when I encourage people, because I hear a lot of times, well, I hear on social media they're saying they see this all the time. I know Mr. Nichols has contacted us before, and I look into that, and I respond to Lisa when those complaints are made aware to me. But I encourage people to report that. If you have a picture, send it. Don't talk about it on Nextdoor or Facebook, because that doesn't help us. If you say this has been happening for 2 months, but we don't have dates or times when this happened, we can't investigate, because that's exactly what we do. We'll go pull GPS, find out exactly when he did it. Well, then you return later today to recycle. Why'd you do this cul-de-sac that way? And we can quickly get to the bottom of it. So that's how we address an employee negligent behavior. It goes through a full safety review. It's one of those driver incidents. It goes on the record. They get written up, and there's consequences for it. So we do take that very serious. And in other cases, there's a misconception that, I saw them dump my neighbor's recycle cart with the trash. But it very well could have been that there's a bunch of trash in that recycle cart. Not alluding to that to your case, but there's a lot of wishful recycling out there, and people put garden hoses and whatnot in their recycle cart and black trash bags, opaque bags where we can't see what's in it, and a driver might think that it's trash. And rather than contaminate that load later, he'll take it upon himself again, not with the blessing of us, but to solve the problem there. And unfortunately, we explain to them when one person sees that, they don't know what you're seeing. And we also like to take out their interpretation of events like that. So I guess with that being said, I'd like to just encourage that Lisa does a great job. When you guys voice a complaint or hear something, report it to the city, let Lisa get with me, and we can address that with those drivers. We did have a new supervisor assigned to the city. He'll be here every week. Parker Pomacall, he actually worked for Waste Connections in the past and was over this area. It's not a reflection of the service you're going to be getting. It's going to be better, I promise. But that more supervision allows for us to investigate things quickly like that. Because when we hear drivers doing 7, 8 homes, that's a red flag right away. And again, we are absolutely recycling 99.9% of everything that's put out there. And that's insured because we don't own a landfill. They have to bring that back to our facility where they park their truck every day. So they would not get by landfilling 300 homes. It's simply...
So you said things like rubber hoses, the driver would see as contamination and inadvertently dump the bin in the trash. Do we have a list of recyclable
program acceptable, yeah,
for CWD, right?
I'm sorry, can you hear?
We have a list of recyclable only items for CWD, right? So that way, for example, if you see a driver on your personal property, you separate, you do everything, and then you see them put both bins in the same vehicle, that's one thing. But if your neighbor has a black garbage bag in it, and the driver sees it as contamination and dumps the whole thing, they may be construed. So,
and don't mistake that for we tell the driver to do that. In theory, they're really supposed to tag the cart, call into dispatch, say, I didn't dump this address recycling because it's contaminated. That way when they call in, they know you had black trash bags or tree limbs, grass clippings. We see a lot of that in recycle carts. Like I said, wishful recycling. And like we said, to remove that misconception, we ask the drivers to tag the address, not to take it upon yourself. And again, they're always thinking the next day, and well, I don't want to return to get this missed pickup. And unfortunately, sometimes it does.
If something is tagged, we actually do get a report the following day that has something that says, trash wasn't dumped because it was too heavy, there was concrete in it, or, something unusual that explains why a trash cart may not have been serviced that day.
And the same would apply to recycling as well.
What you just said would be a valid excuse if the crews were looking in both carts at the same time. If the dirty trash always comes through first, I have never seen them look at it in the recycle second truck that came through saw contamination, they'd have to leave it. They don't have the option of dumping it into the same truck. So your argument does not seem to be valid since nobody ever checks both cars at the same pass.
In some cases, there's lids propped open in a lot of the communities, and they can see right in there, and I assure you I've seen my share of 4-foot branches sticking out of the top of a recycling cart, and sheetrock, you name it. But you know, I really want to make it clear that that's against our policy for it to occur. Not only against the contract, but that we wouldn't survive as a company doing that.
Right.
So widespread problem of that, we won't allow it. Will it occur on occasion? We don't want it to. But we work with the labor we have in some cases. And we had an instance last year where the helper was confused and thought the blue carts were trash carts because they are with other companies. We identified it right away, let him know, and he said, "Oh, okay." I mean, but you know, again, that was somebody let us know, and we corrected it. So I encourage people to, if you see something, report something. I mean, we hear that all the time. It helps us be a better company as well. Any other questions about that? And there is a list of program accepted materials on our website, and we've got a lot of graphics and stuff you can push out there too to just help remind people. All right, so quite often we get asked, you know, how COVID-19 is affecting the waste industry. So in this slide, I'm just covering the monthly CWD COVID cases. Like all companies, you know, we have been impacted by the pandemic. I imagine, you know, the staff or some of the businesses maybe even you own as well. This just gives you a monthly breakdown of that. And this is a cumulative COVID case slide. The real purpose of this is to just highlight that, you know, we too are affected by this. And when a driver's not on route for 2 weeks because of COVID, and you know, that's a hole we got to fill. So it's struggles we feel every single day of this pandemic, and it's had other effects. I'll show on some other slides, but this is really just to kind of show you that we're working through this together. So we've had about 60 total employees come down and recover from COVID. Luckily, everybody's recovered fully and is back to work. So that makes up about 18% of our workforce. We have about over 330 employees. And there's been no proven work transmission. So I know a lot of the thought is, does it happen from picking up trash? And there's really been no substantial proof of that. One of the largest effects we've seen due to the pandemic is everybody being home, and with that resulting in increased trash tonnage. You know, that's a direct cost increase to us. The gate rates at the landfill, we pay by the pound to dispose of trash, just like everybody else. So in 2019, there was 922 tons of trash collected, and in 2020, that number is 1,037. So that's an 11% increase in the trash in bulk year over year, and that is an April through December, or you know, pandemic comparison, pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. So with all that being said, this is one of my happier slides to see is the customer service inquiries, or the ratio that we track per 1,000 service opportunities. Again, that's to kind of help normalize it and make things comparable. In 2019, we saw that ratio at 1.68. In 2020, we saw that number at 1.39. Now, obviously, we want to get that lower. I'm not here to tell you that that's acceptable. We've done things like add a new supervisor to continue driving that number down. But that is a 17.3% decrease in the ratio year over year. So we're heading in the right direction. I know I've talked about it since day one. There's been issues with the billing. You know, we started, and even I checked the RFP today, there were 630 homes in McLendon. We're billing out almost 1,200 now. So it just shows the gap of what we started day one and what we were actually picking up and what we figured out months later. You know, we did this together. We figured this out together. That's by no means anyone's fault. So we're seeing this go in the right direction, and that's, like I said, despite the challenges we've seen with COVID, but also with the city growth. You know, new streets, that does cause a lot of, you know, issues in any municipality. Yeah. Any questions about the complaints? So we saw 155 inquiries in year 2020, and that involves anybody that feels wronged. We call them grievances. So you say your trash was missed, even though GPS shows we went by there and we got both your neighbors, it's still a grievance. We log that because you feel wrong. We don't, put in any bias into that. All right. As for the 2020 annual Extreme Green events, these pictures are actually from the 2019 event, but all the other numbers do relate to the event that was held last year on August 29th. So we collected over almost 15 tons of material. So that includes tires, electronics, household hazardous waste, scrap metal, document shredding, all available for residents to drop off. And we've been hosting that event at the Chisholm Baptist Church. And we had about 141 cars come through last year, which was good because I believe in 2019 that number was around 95 or so, give or take 10. So the 2021 Extreme Green event is scheduled for October 16th. I believe that's been voted on and it's been approved. We'll handle all the paperwork. Again, it will be held at the Chisholm Baptist Church. And I think we just continue to push out to the HOAs and to the community, what's available at this event. You should continue to see the growth. It's included in the monthly rate, so it's best we can get that exposure to everyone. A program we started last year, actually end of 2019, 2020 is our paint reuse program. So at these Extreme Green events, we take all the latex and oil-based paints and separate them, sift through them, clean them, and repackage it into in 1 gallon and 5 gallon containers. And they typically come out to like what we like to call the sexy beige. But we then give that back to our communities to allow residents to come pick that up to use for a community project. Azel is a great example of using this. They fix up a lot of less fortunate people's homes, and they use this paint to paint the decks and have municipalities paint public city facilities and things like that. In some of our cities, they'll keep that at City Hall for residents to come and pick that up. Each pail's got a little dab of the color that's in it on top of it. We have an ample amount of this paint, so if you want some, please let us know. We'll get you as much as you want and more. As for community partnership and good neighbors, so this is a picture from Carlos and Alicia Rojas on Peasant Hill Drive. Son was having a birthday and really liked to watch the trash truck like a lot of the kids do in the neighborhood. But this extends beyond that. If you guys know of community events, parades, and things like that, reach out to me, and we'd like to sponsor those, make them what we call green events, where we'll set up recycling depots and trash cans at no charge, just to get exposure and really show the partnership with McLendon. And show that you care, by making these events recycling.
That's good to know. Yeah. That'd be good for us, Gene.
And as for the CWD mobile app, so we launched this in June of 2019. We'd like to bring this up at every meeting just to remind people, residents and customers can use the app to do just about anything you can do on the phone or an email. Commercial customers can pay their account. I believe since we bill residential, they can do the same thing. They can pay their account through the mobile app. We'll take you to the portal that you go in and type in your information. But you can request a cart replacement. You can take a picture. If you have a special bulk pickup you need to schedule, report a missed pickup. All those things can be done within the app. That's in the Google and Apple store. And we've had about 1,300 downloads since we started. So we're trying to drive that number up, but I have a feeling a lot of that is city staff at municipalities that are testing it out. No, but I can address the $10 charge that Mr. Nichols brought up, and I've heard this plenty of times before. So the $10 charge is a convenience fee that our online credit card processing company, I believe we use Stripe, charges us. So they charge us a fixed percentage, or credit card companies do, to accept online payment. At the time when we started with that credit card company, we couldn't do a percentage add-on of your monthly rate to cover that processing fee. It was a flat rate. So $10 was chosen. You take all of our online payments and process payments, and we are not making money. That's state law with our $10 charge. It's $10 if it's a $30 charge. It's $10 if it's up to $500. So it's a flat rate. We are I can tell you right now, and it'll actually be on our next slide, part of our new customer service system is we're moving to AMCS, and we're adopting a new online payment system that will allow us to do a percentage, essentially, to cover the processing fee. The way to bypass the $10 is you can call into our accounting department and pay with a credit card. They can do a direct charge, not having to go through the portal online. They can do a direct charge and bypass the $10 fee, and you could set up reoccurring payments and make ACH payments, and there's no $10 fee as well.
And when is that new system going to be in place?
So that's what I'm covering here. So we're making in January of last year, December really of 2019, we signed a contract with AMCS, which is a global customer relationship management company. Their tool, which is Platform, is going to be replacing our current system. That's about 15, 18 years old. We're making about a 400% increase in investment in this new software, in the yearly subscription. So it's a very significant improvement for us. This is going to give our customer service greater transparency and tracking missed collections, what happened, communication. It's going to be able to integrate technology into the trucks. For commercial trucks, that's route optimization. Again, with the improved payment system, it's going to link an online payment directly to the account, saving our back office a lot of time and money there as well. But we expect that to go live in Q3 of 2021. I think right now it's set at June, July, so I'm hopeful.
Yep.
Got a couple calls with them every week trying to get this figured out. It's a big move for us. We're very excited about it. Less excited when we're doing all the data migration, but like I said, it's going to bring things like route efficiency, optimization, mobile routing, things like that. Just kind of catch it. The industry is slowly integrating technology like this into collection.
So you're working out a contract with a new credit card processing company?
Yeah, so we're going to be using AMCS Global Pay. Right now, I believe we use Stripe. Not 100% sure about that, or Forte.
You know what the percentage is going to be?
I do not, but what we have the ability to do is the credit card, let's just say, charge us 1%. We can set the processing fee at 1%. Right now, we couldn't do a percentage. It had to be a flat rate.
Well, the only reason why I bring it up is I own a brick and mortar business, and we had credit card processing.
Yep.
And so you have your processor's rate, you have market rate,
right.
And the market rate is determined by the 3 banks that are involved with this specific transaction.
Yep.
A debit card was only 50 cents. And even a high valued card like a miles card was typically less than 5% of the transaction. So $10 for $50 is crazy.
Well, what happened is, so our online, we can take payments up to $500 increments. And since we don't have the ability to apply a percentage processing fee, you pay $10 if you're doing a $500 payment or a $30 payment. So when we're getting a lot of $500 payments and we can't cover the percentage, you got to see where it makes up. The number of transactions that occur. And if we're paying a percentage to process a $500 fee, but we can't do that varying level of charge to that customer, that's where the $10 came about. And this was many years ago, stamped as bright as it can be before you make that payment, so it's no surprise. It even says call collections if you want to pay over the phone. I mean, we really try and let people know, but we have to offer it, and that was our solution until we make this conversion to a new system. So it's outdated, yes. We're making the changes to try and get that updated. So we bill forward by the quarter. I think it's like $19.50, maybe a month, so times 3. I'd have to check the rates. I don't know off the top of my head. And another point on the payment, and I was actually speaking with my father, the president and founder of CWD today. We can offer a financial incentive, whether it be a lower residential rate or what have you, if the city were to ever take on the billing for the trash and recycling services. So obviously, a lot of municipalities include it with their water bill. I understand out here things are different because they might be able to choose their water, so it might not make sense everywhere or right now. But there is a financial incentive